Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rahul Binoy, and I'm the event head and your host for today, representing ASMA. ASMA stands for Adoption of Social Media in Academia. It is the leading community in academia, catering to all the segments of education sector, comprising of schools, preschools, higher education, government body, and corporate houses. ASMA in itself is a knowledge sharing platform that helps to uncover latest insights, anticipating future trends, and providing a transformative social media framework. Today is the third and the last day of our mega event, Global Leadership in Education. And this wouldn't have been possible without our partner, EduVacancy. It is India's first placement portal for the education sector. EduVacancy helps candidates in finding their dream job, thus making the recruitment process simpler and faster. This has been one of the most favorite platforms for both job seekers and job providers for finding new opportunities and recruiting talented candidates. Also, I'd like to thank our partner, FMA Digital, and AI partner, Urai Robotics. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the first panel discussion of the day. I'd request the audiences to keep themselves engaged by dropping down their questions in the chat box for our speakers to take up. The topic of discussion is redefining curriculum and pedagogy for hybrid learning. And I'd like to warmly welcome the eminent speakers we having here today with us, starting with Ms. Rupkatha Sarkar, Principal La Martiniere for Girls. Welcome you, ma'am. Then we have Ms. Revathi Srinivasan. She is the Director Education, Sulochanadevi Singhania School. Welcome you, ma'am. Then we have Ms. Debika Chatterji, Director Principal, JBCN International School. Welcome, ma'am. Then we have the moderator of this August panel, Dr. Kavita Bajpai. She is the Director of the International School of Thrissur. Welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much all for accepting our invitation and joining us on this wonderful forum. Over to you, Kavita, ma'am, to take up. You can take up the discussion forward now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul, for a wonderful opening remark. And yes, today it's an eve of the Teachers' Day. And what a better day could this be to discuss about changes in education, teaching, and learning practices. So first of all, I would like to sincerely thanks to all the educators, counselors, administrators, custodians, school staff, and each and every member who have been working above and beyond during this pandemic. You are appreciated every day. Thank you to all of you, your hard work, all the hardworking teachers and support personnel who do so much for these students. Not everyone can imagine the conditions you all are dealing with now. All of us come across many challenges, but nothing to compare with your challenges, dear teachers, during these COVID days. So kudos to all of you who have mastered these skills required now and the extreme uncertainty. You are the heroes. Happy Teachers' Day to all of you. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought a series of challenges for educators as the schools are transitioning from in-person teaching and learning to virtual learning. As a consequence, educators are now discovering and implementing new learning models and pedagogies for hybrid and blended learning. And when the educators are doing so, there are these school leaders who are backing them, who are supporting them, who are guiding them, mentoring them, and inspiring them. And today we have such inspirations present over this discussion in this panel. So I would like to start with my questions with one of our esteemed members of the panel, Ms. Rupkatha. So, Ms. Rupkatha, my question to you, how hybrid learning makes the education system more engaging? I would like to hear your opening remark on the same.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bajpai, for initiating this question. I think now most of us for the last 1.5 years, nearly now 2 years, we are using this model of learning. Of course, in my part of the country, that is Bengal, after the second wave, we were thinking of opening school. And but then, things went awry and we could not open. So actually that way, hybrid learning, that means face to face and also remote, we could not practice. But time to time, our children are coming, not now, but initially they were coming for their practical classes, and we could do a bit hybrid learning. See, now it is mostly remote learning, online learning. But now we are thinking again learning. And I think, in most cases, without a face-to-face interaction, it is very difficult to really touch the child. And now as educators, we are all facing it. We have had online learning. The learning is going on at a wonderful pace. Assessments are being done, but there is a big gap being created. Just the other day, I had a small child coming to my office, and he is nearly 8 years old, and he is hiding behind his mother, who is teaching in our school. And when I'm wishing him, an 8-year-old boy is hiding behind the mother, feeling very embarrassed. And we could all realize that for 2 years, this little boy has not interacting with others, and that is creating a gap in his ability to move around and interact with others. And that is where the gap in the learning is happening. So this model of learning is going to be very important for us in the days to come, when we can have face-to-face interactions, when we can move with a pace of learning which will be suitable for all learners, and at the same time open up the best of the resources using technology. I can give an example. Just a couple of weeks back, we had an inter-school science festival called Poesis, creating something new. And we could connect with our ex-students who are research scientists in different parts of the world. And they spoke about their school days. They spoke about the way the activities of the school helped them to come out of their shell. And so we realized that how the global perspective was brought in by this scientist who's doing COVID research sitting in London. So therefore, we feel that, this is a wonderful mode of learning that is opening up in front of us. I can also give you an example with my junior classes. Many of the parents are now working. Creches have not opened, and they do not have this daycare facility that was there before. So many of them are finding it difficult, with their work to balance the life at home. Now no more there is a lockdown. So they are saying, ma'am, it is very difficult for us to log in at the correct time when the classes are happening. So there again, this hybrid mode is coming, where we are giving them the tutorials, we are giving them the classes via the video method, which they can later on look up and help their children with. So therefore, at their own pace, at any different location, at any different pace as per the learner's requirement, we are able to utilize and use our curriculum in the best possible method. So we are really excited, and we are really looking forward to all the resources that are available through this method. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful insight. And I totally agree what you said about the feeling of isolation, which is somewhere, playing on the confidence quotient also of these children, No doubt about it. I think there is a lot what has to be done once these children start coming back to school. And of course, the self-paced learning, as you said, as one of the prime advantage of hybrid model of learning, we cannot overlook that as well. So certainly, the hybrid model of learning has to go in a beautiful blended form where the human intervention, human touch, human feelings have to be intact with technology supporting us. So thank you so very much for your wonderful insight, Ms. Rupkatha. I am moving to Ms. Debika Chatterji now. Ms. Devika, I've heard you earlier also talking a lot about blended learning and hybrid way of teaching and learning. And of course, since now things, we have come to the terms with COVID that yes, the life is going to be with new normal for some more time. And by the time the schools would start functioning fully, the schools are also supposed to be ready with this model of hybrid teaching and learning. So my question to you is, what role will hybrid learning play in the future of K-12 education? So if you wish, you can answer it in today's scenario, maybe soon after, once the school starts in that scenario and in the long-term future. So maybe you can divide in short-term and long-term. That will be really great. So over to you, Ms. Debika.
Thank you, Kavita. A pleasure meeting you once again. And I keep thinking about this saying that we have all heard about earlier, that when life gives you lemonade, you need to learn lemons, you need to learn to make lemonade. And I think as school teachers and principals, all of us have embraced that. We have all learned and we are making lemonade out of all the lemons that we have. And I think it's made life sweeter. Somehow we have found the best that we can get. Like my friend panelist before me said, that we have come up with so many ways we can reach out to people across the globe. The world has definitely become a very small place which can fit into our laptop or our handheld devices. We are able to modify the way we learn and make it as individual focused as possible. And children have started getting a lot of autonomy over their learning. So when we are talking about synchronous sessions and asynchronous session, it gives them a lot of autonomy. It gives them flexibility. It gives them the learners can actually focus on their own potential. They can think about various opportunities. They can take charge of. We improve engagement. We can parental involvement. It has become so easy to talk to parents. There used to be times when parents could not visit our school because the teachers wanted to meet them and they were busy. However, now for each and every parent interaction, I have almost 100% attendance, which had never happened before. The engagement with the parents has made the learning journey of each child a lot more meaningful, a lot deeper. And I would like to tell you something. The future of hybrid learning, I think this was a lesson that all of us needed to learn. And we had to understand the value of hybrid learning. We had to understand that it is not just the classroom that makes it possible for us to deliver high quality education in our schools, because the school is not just those four walls. You know, there's a lot that happens within those four walls. I would like to share something that I saw recently in an online classroom. This was a junior KG classroom, and the teachers had come up with an idea which was all about interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary learning, and they had devised a science, math, and music session combined together. And children did not really have to sit in front of the screen. They had to listen to the instructions that were coming from the screen. The teachers were giving those instructions. They had to get small glasses or cups from the kitchen. They had to take turmeric, chili, coriander, things like that, and put it in the glasses so that they had different colored water. They had to ensure that the water level in each glass was different. And then they had to use their pen or pencil, whatever they had in their hands, to create music. So they had this music rainbow xylophone, which was a wonderful, wonderful way of teaching them about science, teaching them about art, the different colors, the cause and effect. So if you have more water, what happens? What is the sound that you hear? If you have less water, what is the sound that you hear? It helped them to reason logically. The world has become a wonderful, wonderful place of experiment. Now we are not really focused only on our labs. We can go inside our kitchen and get dough, which can be used by our numeracy teachers. It can be used for so many wonderful activities. I think the future, like you asked, Kavita, the future of learning has just opened up. It has shown us that we need not be bound by the narrow definitions of education that we gave to ourselves. It can be a huge, big picture, which has the potential to grow into something different every day. So I have a lot of, I think I am looking forward to the future of blended learning and hybrid learning. Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful words. And those were full of positivity and hope. So thanks a lot. I totally agree to your point here, where you talked about radically transformed educational experience. I think we all have been a part of it, and we are a part of this journey, because opening schools or getting students to the school after this COVID scenario is in control or is over, is about so much more than just opening the doors. And we have to actually come up with such constructive and creative and innovative ideas, so that whatever the gaps have been occurred in the past in the teaching and learning methodology, that can be taken care. So wonderful, wonderful, Miss Debika. Now I'm going to moving to Miss Revathi. Miss Revathi, um, taking the references from Miss Debika, what she has said, that she's looking forward to a fantastic future with hybrid learning, and I'm sure even you would also agree to the same. So, what do you feel? I mean, what kind of the changes do we need in this hybrid learning system when it comes to teaching and learning, and when it comes to overcoming the gaps which have been created in these past 2 academic years, as well as I'm sure you would also agree to the fact that nothing is foolproof as of now. It's going to be the trial and error for some more time. So, what do you feel? What kind of the readiness or what kind of the changes are required to bring
Thank you
in the
so
system?
much. I think it's wonderful for all of us to get together today to exchange our ideas on this wonderful topic. And I very strongly believe that learning is something that's going to change continuously, and that's going to be the fastest change that we are going to see. And that's going to be at all levels. Though, this is just one of the many ways to learn. So there could be more and more ways as the years come by. And however, I do notice that hybrid learning is also something that every school would look forward to. Why? Because it is simply an blend of online and offline. And as rightly said by Debika as well as Rupkatha, what is not possible real time, or what are we missing in real time? We have tried our best to compensate on online, but we've not been able to. So that's ended up as a gap. For example, Rupkatha did say about how children miss that feeling of touch, of friendship, the bonding, and things like that. However, I see it has changed the way we have to think, and that's what is important. How do we think differently, and how do our children make their choices by the choices we are offering them? And what is the choice that we are offering them? We are offering them a hybrid learning module. And therefore, that opens up arenas where children will have choices, will have flexibility in learning. Okay, I choose how I wish to learn. I choose, and that was actually the crux and the basic question that we have to ask ourselves. What is education? Education is not about the quantum of knowledge that we accumulate, and not the pails that we fill in, but it is about how I choose to learn and what I choose to learn. So I think coming to that crux of education, I think we are at the right starting point. How, let me say, when it comes to blended learning, how do we see it as different? And for me, it's not just about online, offline blend, but even the way we go about it. Now that needs to change. How do we go about introducing problem solving in a blended model? Now that's something that everyone has to start thinking. So while we are doing our curriculum and while we are thinking in terms of our pedagogy, we'll have to question and ask this question: can we throw real life problems so that it becomes authentic? So am I learning real life problems? Am I getting the first hand experience that I ought to be getting? So how do I connect it? So there's some kind of a self-awareness of ourselves which comes in. This kind of problem solving is not only for students, but also for teachers. And it's also for parents, because the minute a parent sits down with a child to do a project or something, he just comes back to this thing of this is problem solving and this I can relate to in real life. In a similar manner, it's all about constructing knowledge. It is because the teacher becomes a kind of a mediator, a facilitator. So the children have a whole lot of ideas which they discuss collaboratively and come out with newer ideas. So for me, these two aspects will make children think, and that should be the main aim of education. That are we able to make our children thinkers and doers? Because in a world that we are living in, we come across crossroads where there are problems and there are problem solvers. We don't need problem solvers. We need creative problem solvers who are able to choose the right, most creative problem on hand. And if that needs to come in, our way of thinking has to change. This new world is not going to go the linear way. It is non-linear, and it is very intuitive, and it is very holistic. So if you need that kind of thing, you need a whole kind of learners. You need a whole lot of people who may be creative, who may be pathfinders, who may be, setting patterns and reading patterns. That's the kind of people and the jobs that we are going to get. So that's a completely new world. So we can't be talking what we talked about in all these 75 years. That's my take on this.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. And I totally agree, and I'm sure each one of us would agree to what you have said. And when we look at, the changes, or when we look at hybrid model of teaching and learning, I personally feel that it requires a lot of collaboration from all stakeholders. Then only the true meaning of hybrid model is achieved. And the model, I really like when you said that I choose how I wish to learn. Perhaps all of us, when we entered our journey as an educator years ago, I'm sure this must be one vision we all must be having. And now nature has given us a way to follow and to make others follow this methodology or this thought process. So I think the inclusion is also getting redefined with this particular statement that I choose how I wish to learn. So thank you for this wonderful, wonderful statement. So when we are talking about the hybrid, model of learning, then certainly school needs a kind of a readiness. The curriculum needs a redefinition of the whole thing, the improvisation. So my question to Ms. Rupkatha, to you, and I would be hoping and I would be seeking the input from each one of you on this particular question. When we say what way your school is redefining the curriculum for hybrid or blended learning, Ms. Rupkatha.
Thank you, Kavita. It was so wonderful to hear from the other educators who are also facing the same challenges. And it is nice to know that, each one is trying in their own way to cope with the situation. See, there is no one fit solution for any school or any institution. And the word flexibility is the key. What is happening for 1 month and holding good for 1 month or 2 months, in the third month, the teacher has to change her tactics. It is not working. So I think, even when we are defining or when we are designing our curriculum, the aspect that we are looking at is when they are in school, when they are face to face, then maximum interaction has to happen. So we are going to define, or we are going to design our curriculum where there will be activities, experiential learning, and collaborative learning. So we are going to do projects. We are going to have playway methods in the school. And when I say playway methods, I don't mean only the junior classes. I mean the senior sections also. And there are wonderful ways of engaging students in the senior department also in the playway method. And by this, we are trying to build bonds which have been broken. I can give you an example. You know, we have a very wonderful way of selecting student leaders. Here, the teachers don't say anything. The children choose their own leaders. And the senior-most batch can elect. So they are electing their leaders. But to know who is a good leader, we give them an orientation. We lay in front of them what are the qualities of a good leader. And then we tell them, so now it is not about your own section. Across the section, you know you have interacted with your classmates and you can choose your leader. What has emerged in this last 1.5 years, I have seen, they are only electing their own classmates. That means from their own section, because they have not had enough activities where they can collaborate and interact and know their other batchmates. It's a very sad state of affairs. So in this hybrid learning, we are going to create activities where they will interact with others. They will learn what are the qualities we can avoid. So in this way, they are not only going to learn, but they're going to learn lessons for life. Ultimately, the challenges that we are facing today, most of it is how can we cope, the adversity quotient of a person, how to be able to cope with the challenges is what is making the person successful. So this is what we have to teach them in our hybrid model when we knowledge transfer. It is going to be creation of new knowledge, creation of new understanding and learning. So this is what we are going to design, and this is what we are going to make our system work so that it won't be for too long. It won't be the usual hours. It's going to be short hours, but in those short hours, they are going to learn from one another. This is very, very important. So they will go back again in the remote learning method where they are going to use resources from technology and put whatever data they have gathered during their face-to-face learning and prepare their output. So for example, we are doing a project, we are doing a journal. So when we are doing a journal, in that journal, they are having to collect data. Now this data is not from the net. This data is experiences of their batchmates. So this will be face-to-face, they will learn, they will play, and they will find out. And then they will journal it and they will put it in the digital format. So these are some of the innovative methods we are trying to build from now, so that when we meet face to face, then we are ready to brace these gaps that have happened. I have seen in the digital presentations, we have English medium as the language for transmission of knowledge, but when they are speaking, their pronunciations are not correct. So there we had to, they're not listening, oral transmission of knowledge is not happening. So therefore we had to create, video presentations where the teacher is, telling them how to speak correctly. And then that they are going to hear at home with their parents, with their caregivers, and they will come up and they will try and bridge that that gap. So here we are using technology, but that is not the end of it. We are using human interaction. We are collecting data from human interaction and then creatively putting it into the digital format or creating new digital resource. So I think these are some of the ways, we are thinking. So let us see how it happens.
Thank you so much, and all the very best. I'm sure what you people are planning, you will materialize that as well very soon. So I'm moving to Ms. Debika Chatterji with the same question, because when we talk about the balanced educational need, then we actually have to look at as a holistically, like we have to look at physical, mental, and emotional wellness of educators, of children, of everybody around. And then we are introducing this hybrid way of teaching and learning. So the entire curriculum needs a redefinition, of course, not only in terms of content, but also in terms of its delivery and execution. So the changes what you have thought in mind, or you have already started bringing in your school, Debika ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Kavita. I was just thinking about everything that Ms. Revathi and my colleagues and friends have spoken about today. And I think all of us are going through this journey in our own unique manner, in our own context. And for us in school, the first thing that we did is that we started at the beginning of the year to focus on health and well-being, because we realized that a lot of families, a lot of children are living in these times which are so very uncertain. They might have faced loss of friends and near and dear ones. Focus on mental health and well-being is something that we are promoting in a huge way in our school for all stakeholders, whether it's the practitioners, the teachers in our school, or the young ones, because we realize that they are living in a world which does not involve too much of interaction outside their home, like we just heard about an 8-year-old child hiding behind the mother. That being the focus of everything that we do, we realize that we also need to focus a lot on professional development for our teachers. So the whole of this year and a half, we have, I think every week, we go through either in-house professional development or external professional development. I think our focus, our budgets, our attention has been all towards bringing best practices, because we realize that this year and a half is not going to come back in a child's life. And if we are true to ourselves, we cannot, we just cannot leave any child behind as far as learning is concerned. We need to put in better than our best, and that's what I think our focus has been and will continue to be as long as there is need. We have looked at one big element of teaching and learning, and that is assessment. We have looked at our assessment, and we have realized that formative assessment, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning are the tools which all of us have to use collectively. We've had workshops for our parents because we realized that suddenly they have become our co-teachers. And if they can understand the value of assessment, the right value of assessment without focusing only on marks, they will be on our side and help bring true learning to the children in our online classrooms. There is a lot of focus on dialogue, one-on-one dialogue with the children, one-on-one dialogue with parents, a lot of focus on reflection, a lot of focus on feedback so that learners can relate to their own learning. Provision for engaging activities, provision for age-appropriate developmental activities, partnership and working with the community. This is the time that all of us need to come together. And we as a school focus a lot on the SDGs. And we realize this is the time that we have to hold it close to our heart and do whatever needs to be done. And we have had so many student leaders. What we found during this time is that learner agency has increased. student leadership has gone up by leaps and bounds because each one of them realize that they are a part of this whole fabric of humankind, which makes us all move together if we need to move forward. So the focus on collaboration, the focus on community service, I think only the literary processes are not the job of a school. We are schools because we look at every aspect of a child's development, and all this makes a good human being. So our philosophy as a school is that we want to make the world a better place, and we do everything that is needed and everything that is possible for our teachers, our parents, and our learners to hold on to that philosophy. So that's what we are doing, and hopefully we will be moving forward in a world which is better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I think my take home from your answer is honing these skills and, working on the attributes, the learner's attributes. And this is something with collaboration, of course, with the help of the parents and educators. Basically, all the stakeholders have to come forward and together. So thank you for your wonderful remark on this question. I'm moving to Ms. Revathi now. Ms. Revathi, one thing we all are experiencing, we all are aware of, and we all are thinking, that is recovering the learning losses which our children have made during these 1.5 years or 18 months. And now also how the things are going to shape up, we are not very sure. It's a time of high uncertainty and truly unpredictable times. So what do you feel, keeping these factors in mind, what kind of the redefinition is happening in your school? How you're leading that? What kind of the best of the things you're bringing into action?
Thank you very much. So in April, when our council did conduct the practical examinations for Standard 12, there was a ray of hope because we thought that schools would reopen someday and maybe by June. So we all bounced back and conducted the practicals under great circumstances. So we got everyone compulsorily vaccinated 2 times, did everything that was possible that would be compliant with all government policies as well as all policies that we think is good for the well-being of our children. And we did all of that, and not realizing that we are not going to open in the month of June. But we did take precautions over there. So while we were opening over there, we just decided on how it's going to be for the year ahead. So the first thing that we had to do and was to know your child. Okay, and that's what we started as a program. So we had a one-on-one interaction with every child and every parent of the school, and tried to have, it was called Rendezvous with Kids, and it was on a one-to-one basis. But everyone could speak their heart out. And what came out of this, and of course, before that, the teachers, as Debika said, we keep doing retraining and training, even about knowing someone or, handling something with empathy. We had to teach them sometimes. So we did that, and teachers did a wonderful job of that interaction. So any person who really lost someone very close, especially grandparents, we were able to reach out to those children. Those who, especially the older ones, 17 and 18-year-olds, who had not shed a tear, had so much of love and affection for that grandparent whom they had lost, that they were able to cry out and speak. So I think that was a very first step of knowing our children better and taking them, allowing them to sort of shed and unload the burden that they were carrying. Because the more the burden that they carry with them, the harder it is going to get for them. So we decided that. So unburdening was point 1. Point 2 was the fact that we tried and changed the learning practices. So again, what we did the whole of last year, I said we need to reflect on it, start refreshing them, and start looking at something more new. So we had events. So we planned out events where there is complete student participation. So us is a TEDx registered school. So we organized our TEDx programs, 2 of them. completely run by the students. Even the speakers, the students decided. And you know what kind of speakers came? They were all those who were influencers, as they call them. And all of them were 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. They were the speakers, not more than 20. And there was a 12-year-old boy as well, who is supposed to be a social media influencer. Of course, with his thoughts and profound thoughts, I thought, a very good understanding of business. And so we started doing this and cracking something very different. The second or the third possibly was the events that we planned were planned to make it more relevant to changing times. And especially because the gap now is being able to connect what they're learning theoretically to something which is practical. Are we able to connect that and see the real life experiences? Because without that, I think learning would be meaningless. And more so, keeping in mind children of all ages, grade 5 upwards is one strategy, and grade below 5 is a different strategy. But we needed to connect with them, so we had real time experiences where we tried to connect, have programs that would run like that. The third was mental health. So for mental health, we started to have we have a film club already in school. So we started to create films created by the students themselves. So their ideas came in. So everywhere, the focus was on making children express themselves. From all these films that we watched, which may be 3 minutes or 4 minutes, we could understand where the learning gaps were. The learning gaps is not about gaps in physics, chemistry, and biology. The gaps is about the mental gaps that they're having. Okay, they're not even sure whether students, for the first time when we conducted our practicals, I didn't have to tell my boys, hey, come on, just stop talking for a while, because they weren't talking to each other at all. So that's the situation we can come. At times when they are all standing together, and imagine I have a very large number, 500 of them appearing for the ISC. And literally, when they are lining up, though they were in batches, I had to, you will have to raise your voice and say, come on now, let's not. And because they're writing an exam, you can't scream and shout. You will have to tell them nicely. But then we didn't have to say that. That gave me this feeling that the connectivity, that bonding, the talking is coming down. And therefore, we need to have a lot more of these talk shows. So we started to have a lot of panel discussions with students. So every week in the assembly is a panel discussion, so that children hear thoughts and express their thoughts. And what's really come out of this is that a lot of children who were sort of backbenchers on this started to come out to share their ideas. And I think that's important. Movie making, as I mentioned, that also focuses on other things that they would like to make. And you could see school leadership coming up by the way of school leaders from amongst the students, which means that you just have to give them opportunities. They rise to the occasion and they come out very well. And that's another gap that I was a little concerned about, because they must have that self-confidence. They need to have excellent communicative skills. They must know what kind of problems they're going to solve. They must do a whole lot of things by themselves, collaboratively. And suddenly that's not happening. Everything was quite individualistic. So that's another gap that we are seeing. And therefore, all events that have been planned in a collaborative manner. But though I say collaborative, I can't get all my 500 on stage and say, come on, let's dance together. I can't do that. So under the circumstances that we are in, we will have to work out those aspects. So just that, all of us, as we are entering and hoping that schools will reopen, plan A, B, and C is in place. But the plans are all towards working towards making children speak, communicate, express themselves, have experiential component where they are having hands-on experiences in everything that they do. In fact, the very first thing that I'm going to be doing is only have science practicals and all these practical classes, for example, in geography or whatever that they would like to do, all of that initially. And all the classes that can be done by a lecture method or using, of course, the more innovative, with the presentations, that we thought we should take it up sometime. as an online process. But the offline process should be one which is highly vibrant, where there are plenty of interactions. There can be a lot of exchange of ideas, whether it's debates, discussions, all of that is going to work well towards the children's development.
Such wonderful thoughts. And yeah, when you were talking about children not speaking much, or they are, missing the connect with each other, I think that is a pain point which we all are actually going through. In the beginning, Ms. Rupkatha has said about that 8-year-old child. Ms. Debika spoke about, the kind of mental struggle these children are going through. And then you are talking about the kind of the isolation they all are getting into. So I think in future, the hybrid learning model, certainly it is not supposedly to be focused only on the academics, but it has to be holistic in nature, where a lot of emotional and mental support also need to be extended through this. So yeah, I couldn't agree more what you said. So and I'm so much getting engrossed in the way you people are explaining that now I'm looking at the time and I look at, oh, 45 minutes are already over and we are already hitting the last leg of this panel discussion. So, as my last question, but not last, second last question, where I want you all, one after the other. So, first I would be going to Ms. Rupkatha. Give me 3 pointers as per your priority, which you are considering as best of the practices, which you are following in your institute or in your school for promoting pedagogical practices in hybrid learning. 3 things as per your priority, Ms. Rupkatha.
Uh, to tell you the truth, I have given very practical examples of what we are already doing. So it won't be anything very different. But yes, the system will be such that there will be the actual curriculum that will be transacted. And in this transaction of the curriculum, we will have one component which will be totally based on experiential learning face-to-face. All right, so this is the in-person component where we will have the assessment done, but the whole idea and the focus of this part of the curriculum will be for children to interact with one another and develop those interpersonal, human skills that actually what they, Debika, and of course, Kavita, you have been talking about is the, the human skills, that they need to, the holistic learning that you have been talking about. So we will have one component which will be coming out from the face-to-face interaction. And the other one will be from the curriculum that will be transacted online. And there also, of course, I always remember how nowadays, we listen to the radio. I think all of us now are listening to radio more than even looking at the television or the screen. And there we can get a clue on how to conduct a class without even, having any knowing of what the person looks like on the other side. And we are glued to, what they are what they are telling us. So we should also understand that when we should be of interaction with the listener. At least here now we have platforms where we can see one another. So we have to find methods and modes how we can actually engage the learner. So there are different ways, we practice different things at different times. As I've said, children are very smart. If they know the method that the teacher uses for 2 days, the same method, they will find a way out to come out of it. So the teacher is a creative who's always finding new ways to engage his or her learner. So
I think we are losing the connection from the
Yeah.
end of Miss Rupkatha. She has been, Miss Rupkatha, you're on mute. You were not, but now you have become on mute. So we could hear what interesting
Yeah,
facts
see,
and interesting things you were talking
the
about.
children are always saying, am I audible? The teacher is saying, am I audible? And the child is saying connectivity issue. Whenever we want to switch off, we say connectivity issue. So you see, this is that issue of connectivity has to be re-established. So this is what we are planning in terms of assessment. See, it is no longer useful. We are crying horse that be have integrity. It is your learning. But see, at the end of the day, they also know that they will not have their tutor or somebody, their helper. They can't carry them off to their colleges when they go. So learning has to be such that they will be engaged in by themselves. So when the assessment time comes, they will also know that this assessment. So now when we are moving from the semesters, we are moving towards a semester system now. And that has actually helped the children. They are now very expectant. They now know that it won't be rote learning, that so much we study and we have to regurgitate. So now it is now very conceptual. So now they are more attentive in class because they know not all be found in the book, because the teacher is showing them a perspective. Teacher is trying to shift their focus from the rote to the conceptual. So they are more engaged in their learning pattern. So this is, the assessment will be more attentive and the child will actually have the right focus in the days ahead. So the transaction of the curriculum, the assessment part, and then as we all have spoken about the mental health. So with all of this, the major area, the focus will be on mental health. If we are not mentally stable, when I say stable, I mean when we are not mentally really engaged in what we are doing, no matter what we do, it will not really be assimilated by the child. So the mental health is the most important area that we are going to focus on, which will include a lot of circle time. We do a lot of circle time where the child, even you can do that online, you can do an online circle time. So we are going to practice that so that it is cathartic. So the child's inner burdens, a child lost her father. She had told her friends pray, and they were praying actually, but when she lost her father, she did not disclose that. She feared to open it in front of her friends. And we really had to find our way to come to the real situation where the child was absolutely closed and in absolute denial. So as one of my co-panelists have mentioned, that they need to cry, they need to open up, they need to unburden themselves, and they need to feel that there is someone who is ready to listen to them. And sometimes, we are going to have sessions which won't be just, nothing from the curriculum, but the curriculum will be very much in focus when we have those very special times where the teacher and the taught will come close together. And that is our focus now that we are looking at. So we hope that, our teachers are working towards it, and we hope that we will be able to achieve that in the days to come with the help of all the stakeholders. And now parents and guardians are very much part of our system. Okay, they know what we are trying. We are no longer just the report card open house day when they come. They are there every day, whether they are directly there, not visible, or whether they're just walking across the rooms. They are there, they're listening to what is happening. And so they are our most important partners now. And so they are also very much engaged in what we are doing. going to be part when we are going to transact this hybrid learning, through different practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for your wonderful and fabulous, rather, the best practices which you are planning to bring in. Over to you, Ms. Debika Chatterji. I know you spoke about assessment. At the time of these paradigm shifts, the assessment needs a change. You also spoke about emotional and mental well-being of the children and the staff members. So I would like to know three things in a nutshell. What do you feel will be your priority while bringing or while endorsing best practices during the hybrid model of teaching and learning?
Thank you very much, Kavita. Once again, I would like to start with the teachers. So as teachers, we are very creative and we are these sophisticated facilitators of learning, but we are also trapped in our own, I would say we want to perform. We want our children to compete. There are so many expectations. We live vicariously through our students, and we are so happy when they perform and they succeed. And we want to teach them, and we want to help them to do this and help them to do that. What I would like to see in the future of education, perhaps hybrid learning will help us to do that, is to just disrupt this linear form of education where we think that the teacher is going to bestow knowledge on all learners in our school and somehow they will be able to transmit it. If we could somehow disrupt this thought process, if we start including learners in the process of learning, not just when it is time for assessment, but when it comes to learning in a classroom, whether it is through inquiry, whether it's through collaboration, each student brings so much into a classroom. There are varied interests and there are varied levels of expertise and there are so many nascent ideas. If we can use that either directly or by scaffolding our instruction, we include the learners in the learning process, I think everything will become easier for us as a community of educators, and everything will become more, I would say, engaging for all the learners in our midst. And it will lead to deeper understanding, and there will be celebration of learning all around. So looking forward to that, perhaps, if we could disrupt everything that we have had in the past and move forward with some new thoughts.
Brilliant, brilliant as ever, Ms. Debika Chatterji. I am moving to Revathi ma'am now. Can I see her on the screen? Yes, she lost her connection, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
yeah, Ms. Revathi. Yeah, maybe some connectivity issues. Though this particular connectivity had brought us all together and we could sail through these testing COVID times. But yes, this connectivity has been issue on and off for everyone. But Ms. Revathi's inputs and her presence was, as always, wonderful, very inspiring. So thank you so much, Ms. Rupkatha. Thank you, Ms. Debika. And my gratitude to Ms. Revathi, who unfortunately could not continue with this connectivity issues, I guess. So for your wonderful pearls of wisdom, I'm sure all of us are on the same page, and now it's a new start. We all are starting at the start point now, and we know that we all are going to run a beautiful race, which is not race by nature, but which is certainly a long way where we have to cross all the hurdles and win over the best of the education for our children. Education, which is in true sense, the education is going to be. So that's all. Thank you so much, ASMA, for providing a wonderful platform to all of us. And thank you, audience. You all have been highly participative. So that's all from our end, Rahul. Over to you. Thanks once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was quite an insightful and informative deliberation. And I'd like to thank all the eminent speakers for all their time and support. Kavita, ma'am, you did a wonderful job moderating the whole session. And it was an absolute joy and pleasure hosting you all. Rupkatha, ma'am, Kavita, ma'am, Seema, Revathi, ma'am, and Debika, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Kavita. And nice meeting all the other new panelists. See you again.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye. Bye.
And I'd request the backend team to play a short video from a sponsor.
Are you looking to find the best opportunities in the education sector? Have you been searching for the right people to recognize your talents and hire you? Here is how you can get started to find your dream job in as little as 10 minutes. Get going now by visiting www.eduvacancy.com. Once you click on register, pick the user type as candidate. You have the option to simply log in using your Google or Facebook account. If not, go ahead and fill in your personal details. You are good to go. Eduvacancy.com, a world full of opportunities.
Thank you so much. That was our partner EduVacancy who supported us in this event. So EduVacancy basically helps candidates in finding their dream jobs, thus making the recruitment process simpler and faster. This has been one of the most favorite platforms for both job seekers and job providers for finding new opportunities and recruiting talented candidates. Event team, I'd request you to play the backend event video. We are waiting for the moderator to join. Actually, Seema ma'am got stuck in traffic. So I'll request you to bear with me for 2-3 minutes on that. Hello, Seema ma'am, are you there? Seema ma'am, can you hear me? You're on
Yes,
mute.
can hear you. I am still stuck in traffic, but we can begin. This is how it is. So do let me know when to begin.
Yes, ma'am. So the topic of discussion is redefining curriculum. The topic of discussion is encouraging research-based learning through innovative technology. And I'd like to warmly welcome the eminent speakers we have in here today with us. Starting from Ms. Seema Sapru, she is the principal of the Heritage School, Kolkata. Welcome, ma'am. Then we have Mr. Rajesh Vasudevan. He's the head of school, Manchester International School, Coimbatore. Welcome you, sir. Then we have Ms. Meghna Musinuri. She's the founder and chairperson, Fountainhead Global School and Junior College. Welcome you, ma'am. The moderator of this August panel will be Dr. Seema Negi. She is the director principal, Sanjeevani World School, Mumbai. I welcome you all once again. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Leaving the screen to you, Seema ma'am, to take up the discussion forward.
Thank you so much. And it is so nice to know that we are joining from different parts of the country. And I am joining from in between traffic somewhere because it's huge traffic in Mumbai. I'll be reaching in some time, but the best part is learning is not stopping and sharing is not stopping. So I think that is the beauty when we talk about technology and especially innovative technology. So the topic we have today is encouraging research-based learning through innovative technology. And as we know, we have a very empowered panel. And when we talk about innovation in the field of education, it basically encourages both students and research all the tools for uncovering something new. Isn't that so beautiful that we come up with something which is new, which we can say it's our own prototype? That is innovative idea.
And it has become possible these days because of research-based learning. In the present era, learning experiences is something that children, they go to a mode wherein they can think, they can design, they can redesign, and then that becomes a base for sometime entrepreneurial skill also. So it's a very, very interesting topic to deliberate. And as we know, we have very empowered panel with us today, and each one of us have some experience to share. So to begin with, I would like to know with my empowered panel, as I said, their views, their perspective about innovation, about technology, about research. So we can begin with you, Seema ma'am. What is your keynote address to open this panel based on this topic?
Ma'am, you're on mute. Yes,
Seema ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, now I've unmuted.
You're still on mute. Yes. Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you are.
Yes, audible, visible.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. You see, what had happened was, I was saying that it is absolutely wonderful to have someone you share your name with. And a little while ago, Mr. Rahul Binoy was mentioning that Seema ma'am, thank you, Seema ma'am, for your inputs and all that. So I thought, there are two Seemas in the offing coming in the next session. So the poor man has been, burdened with too many Seemas. Am I right, Rahul? Hello?
That's a good beginning, I think, Seema ma'am.
There were too many Seemas, poor thing. He didn't know how to say thank you to. So there were no Seemas in the previous, the program. But he said thank you to Seema. Anyway, so I'll start by saying a very, very cliched term, very cliched. But this is about VUCA world. And I wanted you to know that whatever topic you're giving us today, it's all volatile and it's uncertain and it's complex and it is ambiguous. So we are, no matter what you say, we do not know what we're talking about as of today, because I am going to talk with my experience, whatever we've been doing in the last, 2 years, 1.5, 2 years, and whatever we've achieved. Don't mind if I sound a little uncertain, because I actually don't know as to how life is going to take us further. So the fact that we've achieved what we set out for, I think it's all thanks to our teachers. And when the entire country was debating on, what should be the way forward, how would teaching learning happen in the pandemic? So teachers of our school, they embraced the change and we plunged into online, computer classes. And we said, let's see what happens. So teachers upgraded their knowledge. They took intensive computer classes. They started honing their technical skills. And I would say what helped us was that from the very beginning, from the inception of the school, when the school was established in 2001, since then, computer knowledge was supposed to be very, very important. So all of us are not just computer literate. I would say we are a little computer savvy as well. So the most daunting task that we had ahead of us was, to build the trust of the parents. Because, when you start something new, especially online learning, parents weren't too sure as to how this would happen. So we started conducting online classes, and then, we started conducting their meetings with parents, how to introduce online learning, teaching and other academic activities, whatever we could think of. So whatever wonderful human resources we have, we started, exchanging everything with each other. So we started looking at all the difficulties, problems which were systematically analyzed and solutions identified, deployed, quality, efficiency, importance to timely decisions, implementation of right decisions. And, so these are the things that one does, but then let's talk about technology and how we have been doing it. So it's like incorporating synchronous and asynchronous learning hand in hand. And we had to do that because we realized that there are parents who, both parents are working. There's nobody at home. Children are too young to be able to, handle their, devices on their own. So we started asynchronous and then we started asynchronous learning also. And we started uploading study material, started making videos, preparing PowerPoints, teaching live through Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, Google Classroom. What we did something very special with technology, and which was innovative, was we realized that there was a lot of disturbance happening during the time when children were learning. So what we did was, there was this heritage school, Kolkata. There was a specific special email ID made for each child. So then there was no disturbance at all, because nobody outsider could enter the classroom. So that was one big thing. So we had our the Model United Nations plus prize distribution, everything we did. So please let me know when I exceed my time, because once I start speaking, there's so much to speak. I'll continue speaking.
That's passion of an educationist, but please carry on. I will let you know.
Ma'am, just let me know whenever I'm
sure. Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So you see, we have to use multiple modes of learning and teaching, which is challenging. But we must understand one thing, that it offers some very, very unique opportunities, and we could remove a lot of barriers to learning. And we realized only after we started teaching like this, that we had more ways to represent inquiries. When children had a question, how to write back the answer, how we could take the extra classes, the content part of it. And we could choose different lengths of time, which is very, very important. And we could make them complete their work. We also practiced inclusion, which is very important. And I think
I will come here. Inclusion, because I will discuss inclusion again in next question. That's really very interesting. And you spoke about creating personal email IDs for students, that
yes,
they become so possessive about their own IDs. That's their identity now to enter to the classroom. So I think we have really gone ahead when it comes to technology. Maybe initially it was disaster driven, that all of us had to jump for this particular technological aspect, but our teachers have now become very comfortable with that. So moving ahead, I'll come back to you again. Mr. Rajesh, I would like to know from you your views, your perspective about technology, about innovation, about research. What steps you have taken and implemented in your schools so that everybody can move forward towards the positive direction?
A very good afternoon to all of you, to all the esteemed members of the panel. And Dr. Seema, thank you for this wonderful question. In fact, when we are looking at research-based learning or innovation, there are a lot of different spokes that we have connected, and Ms. Seema Sapru has in fact summarized everything, leaving little for us to talk on, but then whatever little that we have, let me add on to what Ms. Seema has already mentioned. We are not discussing this because of the time that we are in, whether it's COVID or not COVID, whether it's pandemic or no pandemic. Teaching has never been, or teaching and learning has never stopped at any point in time. In fact, I would like to say that we are the true warriors of this situation. And on that note, I wish all of you and your members and your students, and all of you and your team, a very happy Teachers' Day in advance. See, the old school model of passively learning facts and reciting them out of context is no longer sufficient to prepare our students to survive in, as rightly said by Ms. Seema, in the VUCA world that we are in, and that is going to get extended in multi-folds in the days to come. Solving highly complex problems require highly complex solutions that are combined with the academic skills to a certain extent and the 21st century skills, the competencies rather of the 21st century. Out of which we all know what these 21st century skills are, but bringing into the classroom a research-based learning, or rather the inquiry learning into the classroom, since we follow the International Baccalaureate in the throughout the whole school, from the PYP, the mid-year program, and to the diploma program. The transition from the transdisciplinary to the interdisciplinary and then making completely disciplinary learners requires a combination of all the skills. Now, while I was jotting down the points, I would just, research-based learning for me can be defined as a journey from being taught to being self-reliant, to being autonomous, to being supported and to be supervised. So in our school, coming to the point directly, the entire aim of any school for that matter, or for any of an educator, no matter in what part of the globe he or she is to actively develop the students to become independent learners. And to that note, so what we have done in our school is we have created a 70-30 lesson module. The 70-30 lesson module has, it starts from the lesson planning itself, because we co-construct, in literal terms, we co-construct our lessons. The co-construction happens with the students also taking, the parents also taking a partnership in the construction of the lesson plan. Why? Because when we decide on a unit, being a language and literature teacher myself, and the head of school. So when we design a lesson, we sent a lot of books to the parents and asked them, which one would you think your child will enjoy learning? The research part starts from at that point, because it is not just simply adopting certain textbooks, what I would like to teach in my classroom. Right. So the 70-30 lesson module, the 70% is done by the students. The 30% is what is known as the teacher-guided investigations, the teacher-guided lesson, and the 70% is student-devised investigations. Now, here the student defines the kind of investigation or exploration the child would like to lead on. Now, when we have a key concept brought in to the classroom, let's take, for example, relationship as a key concept. I would like to bring the related concepts of such as connections, or I would like to bring structure, shape, or aesthetics to the classroom. Then we decide the different kind of explorations that would amplify the research in the classroom. This happens in the primary year program as well as in the middle year and in the diploma program. So in the research process, the children will look into formulating a general question. The overview of the research literature is provided by the teacher, but defining the question, planning the research activities, clarifying different method and methodologies are done by the teachers in 30%. The 70%, the children will undertake the investigation. They do the entire research, and in that part of the research, they bring various technologies to the classroom. Now, one of the, if I am talking about technology, we use different tools for different programs, like the digital technology that amplifies or that enhances learning. For the primary year program, we use the Zoom. The middle year program and the diploma program, we use both the Google Meet, Zoom, and Microsoft Teams, depending on the kind of culture that we want to bring into the classroom. Now, coming to that, the children are given the authority to decide what kind of technology would they like to bring into my classroom as a language and literature teacher. Now I'm teaching Macbeth. So when I'm teaching Macbeth, it is not just I never bring textbook to the classroom, because that is not what I'm teaching. They research into the entire text of Macbeth, and then they try to connect it with relevant themes or relevant concepts or relevant ideas that they can connect it with their real life today. Now, vaulting ambition is one of the highlights of Macbeth. So how does vaulting ambition happen in today's political life, in political scenario? Or where does it lead to? So Kahoot is one such gaming technology that children used to bring into the classroom, and they do flip teaching. So 70% happens with the students exploring the lessons in the classroom, where they bring different technologies. They port YouTube videos into the classrooms. into the lesson plan. They create their own videos and they bring into the classroom. So children enact. In fact, I was told not to bring any PowerPoint, so I'm just keeping it aside. In fact, I had a video where my children enacted Macbeth, and I really wish that I had one of such teachers in my classroom. So my understanding of Macbeth would have been entirely different when I learned.
I think this is beautiful when you said, like, when a teacher delivers and feels that, okay, if I had a teacher like this, I would have understood Shakespeare in a better manner, because I think I have seen many of the children, they still struggle with Shakespeare when it comes to Shakespeare. But your 70-30 module definitely, I think, has worked. And the way you have spoken about inquiry and research right from your primary years and middle years and senior children, that really present a very holistic picture, that it is not about adapting technology or embracing it, but ensuring that it is used mindfully. So I'll come back to you again, Mr. Rajesh, for more such insightful, I think, not just deliberation, but also knowing the kind of teaching methodology you are using with research and innovation, and some good tools that you can give us. So we have our third panelist, Ms. Meghna, here. Ms. Meghna, your opening note about this particular topic, and what are the key benefits that you see the technology and research have placed in front of us?
Thank you, Dr. Seema, and it's so good to see you, that you're back from your traffic jam on the screen. And good afternoon, one and all, and Advanced Teachers Day, Happy Teachers Day to everyone who are contributing to this particular platform called education, or we call it teaching and learning environment. Today's common facts are, of today, are the products of yesterday's research. I'm sure you all agree with me on that, right? And the minute that we say research, it's common to think that, it doesn't start until, one goes to the university, when it comes to especially, children studying in state board schools. Or unlike international curriculum or CBSE now with NEP 2020 coming up, so there's so much more that children can actually will be given an opportunity to learn to. So what we have done as a state board school in our school is that we try and create situations and scenarios where they will be able to learn to research. So where we try and build a research community, there's some students who love to go research and come back and share it in the class and things like that. And then we would celebrate the students who research within and beyond the school. We would invite people from across the world to come and interact with our students way before the pandemic actually struck. So this was, I'm talking about 2012 onwards, because I would always believe in that a physical school should not compel the boundaries, or it should not say this is where you will learn from. I wanted to open those boundaries up to without any boundaries to the students. So we were one of the early schools, to implement Google Hangouts in those days, to invite people from across different parts of the world to interact with our students, so that the learning doesn't only happen within the four walls, but it can be from anywhere else. So when our students appreciated it, and then also I as a mother of two very young girls, and also an entrepreneur who's trying to make a difference in education industry, tend to look towards technology for every need of mine. So I would say, innovation is nothing but when there is a need is when you start innovating how you can get things done in a better way and go forth. So I taught all our school vendors how to use Google Docs, and not to bother sending somebody here, or trying to do a lot of paperwork as such. So I was trying to teach them all, and it was a surprise to understand, even for Google to know that somebody is only using all Google apps and trying to interact and run their school on, completely using their apps. They were surprised, and when they visited, and then they understood I'm more preparing the children for tomorrow than today, because yes, I could say I'm a little early when it comes to technology, even though I am not too much into it, but like, whatever works and whichever is simple. So I taught my teachers how to do their own Google sites, class sites. So we started off from there. And then later on, we used to have a lot of interactions online and all of that. And so Google rolled out saying that, okay, let's do this for many more women entrepreneurs to come and be part of Google platform. So they rolled it out to 10,000 women. And they made me a Hyderabad champion for Google Women Entrepreneurs on the Web, because they wanted a story to showcase, like, and if someone used it, what was the outcome of it? So based on this, like, later on, while I was helping them out, they asked me, Meghna, you're helping us out. Is there any way that we can help you? Google is like, for me, is a modern God. You ask for it and definitely it's been taken care. So I said, we don't have a platform for education. So we wanted to be, we wanted to, it'll be really nice if you can create a platform for education. They asked me, what do you mean by platform for education? I said, see, I'm using Google Hangouts for, helping interacting with people from around the world. There could be a lot of children, for whatever reasons, that they might not be able to attend school in physical form. So I'm sure this will be another added advantage for them to do so. And most of the teaching faculty are young mothers. And for whatever reasons, their child must be sick, their husband must be sick, whatever reasons, they can't actually apply leave very often to the schools. So if they have this ability to actually will be able to use and teach from wherever they are, they're still continuing their classes, because there'll be some important classes that they must have planned and, they wanted to execute, but suddenly they're unseen, circumstances which will actually stop them doing so. So these are certain things that, I was sharing it with them. And then I said, like, if there is any way that these students will be able to do something, all of this online. I think after 8 months, I was surprised that, they have done, and they launched Google for Education in India. They said they were working on something in the US, but when they launched it, they sent me that link and I was super happy. And then we were using a little bit of Classroom even then as well, to just try and make it more user-friendly for the students about it, because there's not too much of coding or anything happens on there.
So Miss Meghna, I think for the entire audience, I will give a good amount of share to you, because now most of us are using Google for Classroom, Google for Education. And there's always a visionary behind everything that is happening. I mean, let's start with Ms. Seema, then come to Mr. Rajesh, how each one of you are trying to innovate, otherwise, if we see, maybe we are not the digital natives. We are the one who are learning. But when that passion is there, that you learn and you want to make a difference happens in the most magical manner. Whatever contribution you had towards Google, whatever you told them, whether they have implemented it in totality or not, but today we have something called Google for Education, and definitely some bit of credit needs to go to you. So I will come back to you again for that. Moving ahead with the second round of our session, want to know a little bit more insight when we talk about, again, using innovation and research, because research has become a buzzword when we talk about pandemic. Okay, if you go to Google and type something, people say you are researching, but research is something much more than that. So Ms. Seema, I would like to know from you, what can we do to maximize the use of innovative technology in the way we are learning? Because research is not just going to Google. So how do we bring that innovation, and how you are bringing it in your school? You need to unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Seema. The only thing that I've understood in our school or wherever I've been teaching is that teachers need to know how to prepare questions. So what we do is we realize that there is something called continuous professional development. That is what we have started in our school. So what we do is, when a new session begins, before that for 2 weeks, we as teachers just go there, we question each other, we make lesson plans, we learn to make questions, we learn to reason out. We learn to collaborate. We learn to do hundreds of various things, and we get people from outside also to help us to learn. So the first and the most important thing is that there has to be a group of willing learners, and the entire school, the entire institution has to become a learning place and not a teaching place, because whether it is a teacher or it is a student, everybody is learning here. So that is the first thing that we tell our teachers. Secondly, ma'am, Dr. Seema, I know that, when we started teaching, we were called as plain simple teachers. Now suddenly we became educators, we became facilitators, we became catalysts, and then we've now become, change makers and whatever the fancy names that have been given to us. But the fact remains that if you if you learn along with the child, if you learn to question, make open-ended questions so that there are multiple answers to it, where children can reason out, they can produce evidence, they can, the fact remains that every answer is correct as long as you can produce a historical evidence to prove, or a scientific evidence to prove that the answer is correct. And you can collaborate, you can make groups, interact with everybody, and the teacher should be able to elicit responses from the students. Also, there has to be, everything has to be student-led here. Now, whether it is a student-led conference or a student-led initiative or a student-led report card, if everything has to be done in a way where student and teachers sit together and they design everything, I'm sure research happens on its own. It's just that you have to provide that kind of an environment. And we've been using now Padlets and Flipgrid and maps and everything else we've been using. So even if it has to be something to do with social or emotional well-being of a child, so in the morning we've told our this is something, I don't know whether it is innovation or whatever. So what we've done is we've said, find all the school counselors, career counselors, behavioral counselors. Every morning you give Padlets to children, the URL is given, and everybody, today you send it in the form of say an emoji, or tomorrow you send it in the form of one word, or then just write name of a flower. So when you write these things, then immediately you come to know what is the social emotional well-being of the child on that one day. So, these are things that we've been doing with children. Then, now that everything can be done on a, through a distance, when we're talking about, different kinds of learnings that are happening. So I think this way, even if you go ahead, there's never going to be only face-to-face learning. We've come to a point when there will be hybrid learning and blended learning. We're not going to go back to only face-to-face learning. That's what I think. And we've been trying to do a lot. I mean, I'm not being able to, maybe because I wasn't prepared for this answer. Had I written it down, I would have been able to tell you hundreds of other things. But yes, we are doing a whole lot of stuff in the school, and children are coming up with wonderful ideas.
But I think your passion and your vision was so very well represented by each and every word that you spoke. That is the beauty about educationists who actually work from their own heart. They don't need any script. No script is needed when you are there for the student, by the student, with the students always. And that is what you said. It was so beautiful example of early morning. You come to know what is the mood of the class, what is the mood of students, and how you have to take the entire day further. So that was indeed beautiful. You also spoke about inclusion. So I think if you have taken care of inclusion, then you are taking the entire students community together. You are not leaving anyone behind. So hats off to those efforts. And I'll go to Mr. Rajesh now, because Mr. Rajesh was giving us very good examples of how he is using all these innovative methods in the class. So I will ask you that only, that what kind of innovative technologies do you follow in your school? Okay, you as a teacher also, you as a school head also, and how are they promoting research-based learning? You need to unmute yourself. So, that is the beauty. Anywhere, everywhere learning. We are doing everything, multitasking, and still we are all focused here. Yes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about it. You know what? When the moment the teacher walks into my school, Now, this is not my mantra. This is the mantra that my mentor has given to me. A teacher must be someone who teaches what Google cannot teach. Right? So, keeping that as a philosophy of teaching, this is where the whole construction of the lesson has happened. And then when I give an assignment to my students, I tell them very strictly that I don't want to know what others have told about this. I want to know what you have got to tell. So the research is within for them to understand how do they explore it. They can take ideas from Google. I'm not saying that since we are in an information bombarding economy that we are living, I cannot stop children from getting information. But I don't want children to come to my classroom with that piece of information saying that that's what learning is all about. So this is when we decided to go with the 70-30 model of lesson plan, where the 30% what the teacher does is she introduces the concepts, she introduces a statement of inquiry and throws a few questions for exploration. That is the 30%. Her role or the teacher's role is to navigate the lesson so that the children pick it from there. So flipping is flip learning or flip teaching is what we do basically, where children are allowed to bring any device to the classroom. In my pre-IP, we have every child is provided with a tab, of course. And now the scenario is entirely different, but in a physical scenario, bring your own device. Our library doesn't have very limited books, 70-30. 30% print books, 70% it is technology embedded. So they have to go to EBSCO host, and that is one of the digital library that we have subscribed to. So they have a space in the library where they sit and research. And research, as Ms. Seema said, it's not just about going to Google and saying that, oh, I found this answer, that's what my research is. This research should lead them to investigation further. They need to ask a lot of questions. As rightly said again, giving an answer is not learning. Asking question is what is learning all about, right? So children are promoted, they are prompted and they're provoked to ask more questions. So this question happens only through research. So the library has that platform where they can bring their own devices, and it happens from primary to middle year program. And in the middle year program, we use any name a technology we have. The children are allowed to bring it as long as it enables learning. So whether it's Google Classroom or whether it's Kahoot or whether it's, I've written a whole list of things that children bring into the classroom, and some of them were very new to me as such. And I asked my children, can you just tell me how do we do all these things? And then we have the Edmodo, where we promote the kind of, I call it as academic social media. It's more like a Facebook, so children interact that. One system that has really worked well for us is this Edmodo, Google Meet, Google Classroom, where children ask questions and they get instant feedback. So Google Classroom has supported us a lot in the 70-30 model, and same goes with, I have all of them here. Moodle is something that we have, we take that has helped us a lot in creating self-paced learning modules for children. Children, when they do that 70%, so for those differentiation to bring into the classroom, children use Moodle where they have created learning modules for other children to learn. So they can add on to it, like how they do it in Padlet. Padlet is used in the primary year program. We use Moodle in the senior and the middle. And it is also easy for us to monitor the students' progress using predictive analytics. That's what we do. So we are able to find out what real growth is. It's not just about a teacher saying that, no, this child is getting 90% this test and he's got 95. That's not growth is. Growth is a child who has just joined and, make substantial learning, where he is able to relate to what the learning is all about, where he is able to connect it with where he is able to transfer his learning into real life. That's what growth for me is. It's not about numbers. And then we, as I said, we use a lot of gamification in the classrooms because children learn through real life situations. Through games are used in the form of Kahoot, and formative assessments are also done in that, where live games are used, MCQs and true or false questions. We generate reports, and basically, I use Kahoot for assessment for learning. So when, as a formative, it's for the teachers. So the moment a formative assessment is done, we understand where there's a learning gap, and that is being reflected with the teacher in the teacher sessions. And then, of course, Google Classroom is created, whereas thanks to Ms. Meghna for bringing this Google for education. So we create Google Docs for managing all the assignments, and posting YouTube's feedbacks. Teacher support materials are created there. There's a whole lot of things.
There is, I mean, I think the list is so long because you have that ocean of knowledge when it comes to using technology mindfully.
No, thanks to my students, I would say. It's not what I'm, thanks to my students.
So thanks to the student, that is what I said. They are digital native, and it is so beautiful to learn from them, you know. And learning is not about giving answers, it's about asking question. Art of questioning is one art I feel which is dying, and each one of us have to revive this art. The more students ask, the more inquiry will take place. The more students will ask, the more research will take place, and the more questions will come, the more innovation will happen. So it is very important that to all the people who are listening to us right now, all the teachers, please, if you do not know the answer, you can say, I will come back to you later, but do not tell children not to ask question. It is very, very important. And this brings me to Miss Meghna. I mean, my question to you is something related to, again, technology, wherein I understood that you are the one who is the right person to ask this question, because when we talk about reimagining technology, okay, since you are an early adapter of technology, just tell, for the benefit of all our audience here, how do you think adapting this technology very early, or when we reimagine the future with technology, how is it going to help students and teachers? Yes, pandemic has seen the benefits, but sooner or later pandemic will get over. So are we going to come back, or it is something that is going to really help us to prepare our children for uncertain future?
Absolutely, Dr. Seema. Because see, I still remember anything new, let it be technology, let it be even research, or let it be anything new, we always have this resistance initially that, you know, okay, we don't know what it might lead up to, or it might, you know, we don't know how safe is it, and all of that, right? So it is important first to educate and bring in this awareness, that because, you know, I understand when I was as when I was as a student, when people would ask me, what would you want to be when you grow up, and where would you see yourself 10 years down the lane, all these things were quite predictable, I should say that. But pandemic has taught us how not to take things for granted, and how future can be very unpredictable when it comes to, like, you know, after this pandemic, I'm sure a lot of people higher order thinking skills have gone really up, and are more open to new technologies or new strategies when it comes to teaching and learning platforms. So I would suggest that, you know, we need to have that, you know, welcoming aspect, because rather than just judging whether it is going to be good or bad immediately, we need to have a control on what we want to do. So for that, I would strongly recommend digital citizenship is one major thing that would play a major role when it comes to, like, you know, giving that kind of an awareness to people who are not part of the digital fraternity before. And like, you know, as you rightly said, we do not belong to this particular era of digital. We come from a different era, and then we are adapting to this era. So digital citizenship is something that I would strongly believe will try and smoothen things out for all of us. And when it comes to any of this technologies and all of that, and once the pandemic is over as well, what we need to help our students is that, you know, to prepare them to face a future which is unpredictable. So what would you do in a situation where you don't know what can be right or wrong is something, because I still remember while I was growing up, my mom, as a working mother, she couldn't prepare food on time during our vacation. And then my sister used to come from her hostel, and she wanted to eat food on that particular given time, where she would be, like, you know, hungry at that lunch hour, where my mom would start cooking her food at that lunch hour. So, and she would give us questions like, you know, what if there is a famine, or what if there is a flood, and then you only have just a handful of rice? How do you think you would survive that afternoon or that day? She would just give us, just to make sure that, you know, we are not pestering her to get the food onto the dining table. So these are certain things which always, help me to look forward to, okay, now that this is set, what is there that we can do further, what we can do beyond, rather than waiting until it arrives and then take a call on it. So these are certain thought processes that we need to inculcate in our children going forth, so that they know, even if you are not planned for it, how do you handle things, in chaos, or how do you make things possible? These are certain skills, life skills, that I'm sure all the educators would agree on, that we need to inculcate in our children. So this is something that, where we can use a lot of technology and innovation to inculcate these things into our students. Because when we, I was doing this project on child rights recently, about 2 years ago, and that led to a lake revival because they got connected to it. I only just said, who do you think all these lakes, forests, and all these things belong to? The older students said government, the younger students said God. But I told them, do you know they belong to you, the future generation? You should see the owning up responsibility all these children had, where, oh my God, I always thought my dad owned things, my mom owned things, even we have things of our own that we can call it our own. That was it. And then they said they wanted to go visit a lake, and then, but the lake was shabby. So when I just said, I can't take you there because the dengue is on high, but this is how it looks, they felt like, it is our lake, how can they do this thing to our lake? And then that is when the research started. How can they implement their research? How can they turn around? And finally, they ended up not just cleaning the lake, but reviving a 15.5-acre lake completely. Now it is a proper rainwater collecting lake in Hyderabad, in the city. It's not like, in somewhere outskirts or in the districts or in the village where there is not too much of pollution. Highly polluted, dead lake, they brought back into life. So this is the power of research when they get connected to. So our role as a teacher is get them connected to, so that they know their purpose, and then they can take this forward, because children have that amazing energy that they want to go and get that whatever that they are working on. Unlike us, because we might have a lot of distractions in our day-to-day lives that we might think like we will work for it for some time, but children, they are the go-getters according to me, and they are
definitely when passion is there, purpose is there, possibilities make their own way, and that is what children have done. And this reminds me that we have not borrowed this plan, we have not inherited this planet from our ancestor, but we have borrowed it from our younger generation. Absolutely. And if we empower them with this kind of responsibility, and when technology can become an enabler, trust me, research plays a major role, because research is not about limited data. Research is about knowing right from the beginning, the way you said, from government to God, that entire journey was taken care by researching, by innovating, by reaching out and providing solutions. So this brings me to the third round of this session, and I think that is our concluding round. What I want all of our panelists to do is, I know each one of you have ample amount of knowledge and a lot of golden nuggets to share. So please share some of your mantra or the golden nuggets with our audience, so that they can go back, reflect, and think, yes, these are the things maybe we are doing, but still we have to do it in a better manner, because each one of us have to keep on sharpening our skills. So let me invite our male panelists, because this is female dominated panelists. So we will start with Mr. Rajesh. Mr. Rajesh, what are your golden nuggets? And along with that, if you can also give 2 innovative strategies that everybody can take home.
First of all, thank you for this insightful session, Dr. Seema. And I would rather recommend all teachers, do not go to a classroom if you're not sure of what you're going to teach. Never underestimate your learner. I always tell my teachers that they might look very small in front of you, but they carry with each of them a volume of wisdom that you and I never know. Because, allow me to share this, we are in a 150-year-old colonial system called education. And we have different types of generations sitting in this academic block. I belong to a different generation. My teachers are from different generation. And students come from a different generation. And the management belongs to a different generation altogether. And we have to connect these dots. So please bring in that, keep this in mind when you walk into the school, whether it's online classrooms or whether it is offline. You need to understand that children know, if not everything more than what you know, but they know what they know. We are just kind of enhancing that what they know. We're just adding on to the volumes. We are not giving them any new information that we just catch one fine morning and give them. We are not doing that. Macbeth already existed, Keats existed. We're just giving it multiple dimensions to it, and children add to the volume. I don't know what takeaways can, I can suggest, but one thing that I want teachers to, or anyone for that matter, to know is keep your lesson plans dynamic. You might have margins and columns and blocks into your lesson plan, but they are erasable. They need to erase from your, whether it's in your computer or whether you manually do it. Give that flexibility and take children seriously in the classroom. Allow the dynamics to happen in your classroom, because you learn in turn. It is not they learn, you are learning something new. Give that kind of a mutual respect in the classroom, and you will enjoy this journey forever in your life. And you will never regret the decision that you've taken to be a teacher. Thank you.
Beautiful. Never underestimate your learner, and that flexibility needs to be there, because we are preparing. I mean, we need to understand the generational disparities. So beautifully you said. I mean, school is a place wherein you can see all the 5 generations thriving together. Wonderful. This brings me to Miss Meghna now. Miss Meghna, your golden nuggets for the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Seema, for this wonderful session. You're moderating it so well, and I'm so happy that I'm learning so many things from the other speakers today, and this gives me an opportunity to share what we've implemented in our school. We've implemented something called a 5:1 ratio. I call it a very positive or a golden ratio, which is 5:1, because we tend to see the younger children coming to trying to get your attention. And bringing in tiny things that their friends have done or that their classmates have done, they wanted to complain about. And then you have parents coming again to the management or to the heads of the school, saying that very small things, it could be, from our perspective, it could be petty, but when we look it from their side, it might be huge, right? So I was wondering, how do I solve this? So we've started this rule called 5:1. So you need to tell 5 good things before you complain once. So whenever the child comes to me, I raise my hand and I'm like 1, 2, 3. And trust me, by the time they say the 3rd good thing about their friend, they only self-realize and say that, ma'am, I think this is a very small thing. I don't think I want to complain anymore. And then they walk out of my room. And trust me, it worked wonders with all the parents also who come to us with those, my child lost their water bottle, forgot their water bottle is a big thing for the parent, or forgot a napkin or whatever it is. What did the teacher help you with other than this water bottle or a napkin? 5 good things about this teacher. That's it. They don't want to complain any further. So people stopped coming to my room to complain, rather coming to my, talking to me to help me understand how well other things are, but bring in concerns just in case if they have any as well. So this created a very cordial relationship between us and also the parent fraternity. I'm sure every school can benefit from this. And this is something that I thoroughly love to share it with everybody, because this 5:1 is a golden rule that we've implemented and it worked wonders, and I'm sure it's going to work wonders.
Indeed, it is going to work for everyone. I think it is going to work for every human. Why just students, why just teachers, but every human. So
audience, this is what my teachers tell me, that even at home they're doing that with their partners, okay, tell me 5 good things that I've done before you have a complaint about it.
Wonderful. Wives, when husbands will come with some complaint, they will say, okay, 5 good thing about me, and then come to the complaint. At least they will get so much of appreciation. Beautiful. That brings me to Miss Seema. Yes, Miss Meghna, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, you said two things, so I thought maybe another thing. It's okay. So I was just, we've implemented something called interactive notebooks.
Okay.
After every class, after every lesson, the child and the teacher gets to do this little bit of art about that particular lesson in some form, and that everything that they've learned about that lesson is concluded in that one page, which is like, once they get to that page, everything falls into place for the child, saying like, oh, this lesson is all about these things. I think that also worked so well with our learning, community and the teachers as well, because, they so look forward to that interactive notebook time. I'm sure, these are certain things that I actually wanted to share it with the other school heads so that,
So what I can see, Miss Meghna, is your passion is oozing out. And if this was not the, I think, digital screen, it would have come out of this. So it was so beautiful. That is what is the beauty about, again, I said, all the passionate educationists, they do it. And then only they come and speak about it. So that is why research is not just going to Google, but research is about doing it, implementing it, and then sharing it with everyone. Wonderful. Yes, Miss Seema, your share of golden nuggets for our audience. You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with something, but you'll have to give me a little time. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about one thing quickly, I'll tell you. So we thought physical education, what happens is we were talking about academics and everything else. So we realized that our children are not doing so much of physical activity that we would have liked them to do. So what we've done is we took out, since we have IB and we have IGCSE and we also have ICSC and NIOS. So what we've done is we took out the accredited boards that we have. We took out the parameters for which, a child is maybe excellent, good, or just about satisfactory in a certain, the endurance test that we have for physical activities. So what we've done is we've taken out the parameters from the accredited boards. We've prepared videos, and we're training students in various fields of sports like this now with the help of those videos. So those, we have about 27 sports teachers in our school. So they all got together and they've made these videos, and these are wonderful videos which are, being done. As far as academics are concerned, so we have these assessment rubrics, which everybody has, learned how to make, and we're sharing them with children and with parents, so then they get to know exactly how we go about it. Another thing that we do is special needs policy is something very, very close to my heart. We've prepared a special needs policy, and we have close to about, say, 20 teachers, special needs teachers in our school, and we have about 200 children who are, either physically or mentally, emotionally disturbed. And I would say disturbed, they have special needs, actually. So these are the children we work with. Now, one thing that I wanted to share with you people is, this is something very close to my heart, and that is we've just started 5 new things in our school. One is called the Articulate Ensemble. This is about the nuances of the language through 5 senses. So this is what we call the Articulate Ensemble. The second one is called the Enigma, which is about demystifying science. So we are working on that. The third one is called Sansmaran, which is the telling of the heritage story by its past pupils. Then the fourth one is THS Girl Up. THS is the heritage school, and Girl Up is a part of the initiative by the UN Foundation. So we've started that. That's the fourth thing. And the fifth thing that we've started is Samvedana, which is called Building Resilience. So it is to build resilience among students, and it's the initiative which, what we're doing is we realize that sensitive people are more likely to have, a lot of stress and anxiety. So for them to be able to directly, through the mail, through the website, get in touch with the counselors and get help from them. So that is what it is. And I'm sorry, I took a lot of time.
No, that's beautiful. So it was not about IQ, but this entire session was about IQ, EQ, SQ, AQ, and not to miss DQ also, because we are talking about digital quotient. This was so very well amalgamated. We have to move ahead with technology. Research is here to stay, and innovation is what keeps us alive. And when we talk about our country, India, we have seen from years to years, ages to ages, there are so many innovative ideas that we come up with. And with this, we have come to the end of this session. I think our audience has taken a lot of inputs which they can implement. I just want to tell all the audience that when empowered panelists come and they share their idea, they share their ideas because they do not only worry about their school or their student. It is about all the schools, all the students. That is how educationists work. So the teacher in me bows down to the teacher in you, and in advance, happy Teachers Day to everyone. And Rahul, it is 4 o'clock and we are handing you the digital screen. We have managed our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. What a remarkable and insightful discussion that was. And thank you so very much to all the eminent speakers for joining us. Meghna ma'am, Rajesh sir, Seema ma'am, and Seema ma'am again. You did a wonderful moderation, I must say. And it was such a joy hosting you all. And I really hope you two all had a wonderful time as well.
Yes, we all did. Thank you so much, Mr. Rahul.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Great learning from all of you. Thank you so much, and happy bye-bye.
Happy Teachers Day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Moving forward, I'd request the backend team to play a short video from our partner advocacy. Backend team, could you please play the video?
To find the best opportunities in the education sector? Have you been searching for the right people to recognize your talents and hire you? Here is how you can get started to find your dream job in as little as 10 minutes. Get going now by visiting www.eduvacancy.com. Once you click on register, pick the user type as candidate. You have the option to simply log in using your Google or Facebook account. If not, go ahead and fill in your personal details. You are good to go. Eduvacancy.com, a world full of opportunities.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful video. Now, moving on to the last panel discussion of the day. The topic of discussion is automating assessments to help support students and teachers in a hybrid learning environment. Now, I'd like to welcome the eminent speakers we have here today with us. Starting from Miss Rupa Sen. She is the head of school, Bangalore International School. Welcome, ma'am. Then we have Dr. Vidhukesh Vimal. He is the headmaster, the Assam Valley School. Welcome, you, sir. And then we have Ms. Madhur Gupta. She is the principal of CBSE Division, Genesis Global School. Welcome, you, ma'am. And then we have Ms. Meeta Sharma. She is the principal of Mussoorie International School. I think she hasn't joined yet. And finally, the moderator of this August panel, Dr. Neeta Bali. She is the director principal and head of school, GD Goenka World School. Welcome, you, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And over to you, Neeta, ma'am. You may take up the discussion forward.
Thank you so much, Binoy. And I welcome all the panelists. I can see one panelist is yet to join in. Of course, a very, very interesting. Do we have Neeta ma'am here? No, not yet. Very quickly, I think in today's times, which are very, very challenging times, definitely any kind of teaching, learning, or for that matter, assessment has become extremely challenging. And all of us as heads of schools realize this and are doing what we can within our power to ensure that assessments are done in a fair manner. However, before I begin the discussion and we go on to talk about how automating assessments to support students and teachers in the current hybrid learning environment is a challenge. Let me request, of course, Rahul has already introduced the eminent panelists. And we have a really eminent set of panelists. I can see that. But very briefly, I'd still like them to introduce themselves once again before we go on to our discussion. We'd start with Rupa ma'am. Rupa, you'll have to unmute yourself.
The digital challenge. Okay. A very good evening to all the panelists and moderator, Dr. Nita Bali. I have been the principal for Bangalore International School for the past 2 years and have about 3 decades of school experience. But past 2 years have been the most significant years in my life because we adapted to a very, very unknown world of teaching and learning. And as a teacher, I have adapted as a head of school, I have adapted to this digital mode of teaching and learning, which was very new to all of us. Everybody has grappled, but I think we have come a long way. That's about me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rupa. Thank you. I'd request the next panelist, please, to Dr. Vimal.
Thank you, Ms. Bali, for the opportunity. I'm Dr. Madhukesh Vimal, and I'm heading Assam Valley School for last 2 years. And I echo all the sentiments what just Ms. Sen said, that the learning which happened in last 2 years, basically you come up with your plan A and the way everything go flat, and overnight you need to come up with plan B, plan C, and I don't know how many plans we made. But most importantly, if I have to talk about myself, I'm someone who's a learner and was very deeply interested in the research and kind of and looking at the details of education in the country, because I personally feel this is one area where people are kind of less investing in our country and are kind of doing a deep research into why certain things are happening and then coming up solutions for that. So I take my role as a researcher, not only as a head of a school, but as a researcher, and I keep collecting kind of a primary data from whatever things we are doing, and I use it for the global research platforms where I kind of work as a researcher on different forums and use it to understand, at the same time, make a difference whatever possible way I can make it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vimal. Thank you. Ms. Gupta?
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Bali. And it's a great platform, to share your point of view, your views here, and speaking along with the eminent speakers. And it's really a great learning. So a little bit about myself. I'm basically a biology teacher and have been teaching all the 3 curriculums, CBSE, IGCSE, and IB. And last year, I took over as a headship for the CBSE curriculum in my school, and whatever the curriculums, and have held many positions in terms of HOD, examinations, head, middle, vice principalship, and I think that has really added a lot of value in shaping me up as heading as a school, the CBSE curriculum. And I think learning never ends. And now also till date, I'm learning, and that is what I believe, and that's what my motto is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Gupta. I welcome all the panelists. Let's start our discussion. We all know that definitely with the children's world, teachers' world having turned topsy-turvy so completely with the pandemic, overnight, everybody's had to re-strategize education. We've had to rethink education and assessment. So Rupa, I'd like to start with you by asking you, how has assessing students become a challenge in a hybrid environment? Because most schools in fact, are using the online teaching learning. However, there are schools also using the hybrid environment. So how has assessing students become a challenge? Do you feel it has become a challenge? If so, how?
So, Dr. Neeta, yes, a very pertinent question. And I think every educationist today is grappling with this very important question. Why is it important? Because we never prepared assessment for an online mode. We are teachers of yesteryears and of course, even today, we were taught and we have been teaching to design assessments, curate them on an offline mode, that is physical way. When we moved 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago, 18 months ago to the online mode, it was absolutely a nightmare. We were fumbling, trying to grapple, as I said, what kind of assessments do we do where we get authentic answers? Because children are, I think, 3 times cleverer and sharper than we adults are. And therefore, the responses that we all realize will never be authentic because they move into unwanted domains and territories to get answers quickly, as we all know. And this became a huge nightmare for all of us. With IB teaching us how to detect plagiarism, this never worked because high schoolers were beyond this tool and technique, and they could navigate anything within fastest possible time. We also realized that the same way of teaching and learning that we did in the physical space cannot be done in the online. So our assessments also had to be reworked, reimagined, recreated in a way to understand what is that we want to assess, what is that one point. So we, first of all, we had a teachers meeting and we took a call. What are the 3 important things that we would like to assess? Let's be more specific and more clear. Are we assessing knowledge or we are assessing skill? Now, knowledge, and to try and understand if they understand the higher level thinking or not, initially became very difficult because we, as I said, we were just trying to understand and fix a problem. We tried to find out if we could assess skills more than knowledge at those point of time. So we tried with short gaming way of designing our assessments with Kahoot, with Quizlet, bringing in different ways of assessing, designing them in such a way that is time bound. They can't play with it so much. And even with proctoring, which means teachers were all acting as proctors, let's be honest, at times it failed our eyes to see who was in collusion, who is cheating, who is authentic, who's writing whose paper. I mean, it's happening everywhere and we're not an exception. Over time, we have learned, as Mrs. Gupta just now said, as Mr. Vidukesh just now said, we are a learning community. We have learned and we are challenged. We decided to move head on. And so now our assignments in the online space are very clearly designed. We try and see that we break it into smaller segments. We use more of presentation mode where we can hear the speaker, then ask him to write. So, it becomes easy for all of us, Dr. Neeta, to see that, okay, it is his voice, the student's voice, and that voice cannot be impersonated by his friend, not at all. And then in between, teachers have also developed techniques where they can have quick quizzes using a way where you have a drag and drop, formula where you can, short assignment, but over there you can have your quiz in inbuilt quizzes where you can get your answers quickly. That way, we realize that they are also happy because it's time bound, it's real time success, or it is a failure. And they can, it's a kind of an engagement that we have learned to develop with them. We are still learning, we are in the process. I must say that we haven't come too far ahead like the Western world that we know it all. And of course, needless to say, our parents would want results. Now, you and I and rest of us in the panel, we know how difficult it is to give an authentic result on the basis of assignments, which we don't know who has done it at home. It's anybody's guess. So we try and make assignments on the quiz format and ensure that if we want to test them, then we test them with only specific goals in our mind without undermining the pedagogical conclusions that what do we want to be assessed, what do we want to see in these kids. And when you talk about subjects like math, it became a nightmare because you could easily go to the calculator GDCs with them and quickly get the answers. So our teachers designed those kind of mathematical topics where it will really pick your brain. You cannot get those answers anywhere in your IB books or your tutorials or various kind of online ways to help you. And what the teachers also devised, Dr. Neeta, they said that we would like to give clear rubrics so that when we get the assessment from them, the assignments back from them, we are going to mark them on the rubrics that we designed. Where we think that it is not right, we will not grade them, we ungraded them. In that way, it has been a tussle, a little bit tug of war between this party and the other party. But I think by and large, we come to an essential agreement that these are important for your university grades. We can't not be authentic. Therefore, an essential agreement is let's be as clear that this assignment is to be answered or submitted by me and not by my friend. We also, another thing I did, I had a parents meeting, Dr. Neeta. I took a parent into confidence with me. So they signed each paper. They were sitting at the back to sign the paper so that they, the student and the school, are a partner in this journey. So a parent surely would not lie. No matter what, the student will try and hoodwink that parent. There are possibilities, yes, but to large extent, these are parents who know what we are talking about. So they also signed each and every paper, authenticating that my child did not cheat in a different way, of course. And in this way, we have come a long way to try and work on our online assessment. It's been a challenge.
Thank you, Rupa. You've explained it so very well. I'm glad, you brought this up and so candidly that we are teachers of yesteryears. And as you very rightly said, that one was not prepared for these challenges. And because these challenges descended suddenly, one had to curate the assessments in order to bring some degree of fairness. And you spoke so beautifully about the various methods that you are using in your school. I'm sure a lot of us are, of course, using them in different forms. A lot of us are probably using similar methods, but everyone's had to devise solutions. And everyone is still trying to devise solutions. I know it sounds very cliche to say that the younger generation are digital natives. The fact of the matter is they are digital natives and they are able to improvise and they are able to devise ways and means of being able to remain one step ahead of you. So I think there is this constant, I would say there's this constant challenge of trying to keep pace with their improvisation and also with their ingenuity, I would say, and with their inherent cyber intelligence, if I may call it, which probably they are gifted with, unlike a lot of us who belong to the older generation and who are still learning perpetually and are trying to learn more and more. Dr. Vimal, if I'd come to you now, Rupa has already spoken about some of the strategies that she's used very, very successfully in her school. What are some of the strategies that you have used successfully in a digital environment in order to assess?
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, before I go to that question, I think one pertinent thing, which, but a kind of constant conflict with every school, and I thought it's pertinent that we talk about it. Number one is, in our setup, at teachers and institution, I think they're a little too emotional about learning. A little too emotional about, and through this emotional, because it's an emotional connect, we are, that much we take responsibility. And many times what happens, we take a little too much on our shoulder. It's called monkey on your shoulder. If I may borrow the word from the corporate thing, when you do this monkey on your shoulder kind of stuff, what exactly happens is everything is your responsibility. that honesty is a teacher's responsibility. The kind of assessment should happen in the best possible manner is a teacher's responsibility. The result should be authentic is a teacher's responsibility. And then what happens? Your kids, they take you for granted. That you are in one way struggling to put all these things in order. And as a school, what we did, we made it very clear. As a school, like, look, there are certain share of responsibility which we are going to take it. But at the end of the day, there's some share of responsibility you are going to take it. And that's how it's like a mutual understanding of what is, and what man just said, it essentials. So we reach that essential in the beginning only. That look, there's some of the area you need to look after. And that's why the second part is very interesting. We thought that can we cope up with these kids in the cyber or say their way of doing it? And we realized we can't cope up. That's why we brought them to our way of doing it. And our way of doing it, we decided 2-3 things. Number one, the assignment should not be typed. It should be written. Handwritten assignments, so that at least you are writing it for that particular minute and that way. So let's do our way. Rather than typing the assignment and sending it, I know, same word copy, you are writing it. That's number one. Number two, we are a boarding school, complete boarding school. In our boarding school, we have an evening prep concept. In the beginning, what was happening, we were a little struggling and apprehensive about screen time, how much they are on screen. Later on, I resolved this conflict by understanding that whether they are on my screen or our school's screen or teacher's screen, but they're on screen. Let's accept the fact. They may not be with you. That doesn't mean that they are not on screen. They're on, say, Facebook screen, Insta screen, some other screen somewhere. So let's leave this conflict of screen time and screen thing, and we introduce our prep. An evening prep, which is mandatory. You have to attend it 6:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30 to 7:40, 7:45. Teachers are there, kids are there doing their work, and it worked fabulously with our grade till grade 10. It was fantastic. Attendance was amazing. Parents were very happy because they were not struggling getting the assignment done by the kids because they are doing it. And no one needs to look at the screen. Teachers are only seeing it, everyone doing the work, the kind of assignment. And we have a prep schedule. We call it prep schedule, that Monday 2 subjects, Tuesday 2 subjects, and that way every day is done and everyone knows exactly on which day, which particular subject will have a prep. That prep been submitted and then accordingly been done. So this is one aspect, like we introduced prep as a strategy to ensure that they are doing the work in front of our eyes, and everything is done in a real time. No extra kind of stuff. That's A. B, as I said, the onus of learning and the onus of improving yourself through different ways of engagement. And then we use in our school leadership team, a school captain, our head boy, head girl, and the other house captains to kind of talk about on this matter, like how important it is to remain authentic. Because sometimes what happens, the situation wherever we are in, that situation reflect the value system or the time in which we all are living. So say, think about the ethical issues of being dishonest. No one talks about it. Being corrupt is okay in the society, fine. And that's why that particular mindset is reflected in our kids also. That it's okay to cheat. But say if you create an antidote of that, as a society, as a community, as a small community or a school where we're saying it's not okay to be kind of, to do this corruption. And we are not appreciative of this. And let's try to build a kind of antidote to the whole existing system and the minds in the societal belief system. And we used our teacher, our school captain, and our tutorial system. In our school, we have a small tutorial system where every teacher is in loco parent is responsible for 7-8 kids. We use such forums to ensure we bring this antidote to the whole existing system of it's okay to be corrupt, rather than let's accept the way you are and kind of put in. That's again one aspect. And then we brought the stories of again and again students, those who have done, because there was a second exam last time also it happened, students, those who have done well while kind of taking the online assessment, submitting the things honestly on kind of their performance, their result, and those who were not regular, those who haven't done the work the way they should have done. I think that those stories of failure and the stories of success also worked very well for the students, that this has to be done. And last and most important thing, we exactly as ma'am rightly said, it's very important that you choose that what needs to be assessed. That when you are in offline mode, you are assessing everything. And through your online, this understanding and I think capacity building of teachers and overall orientation, what needs to be assessed. That we also looked into in detail in terms of our capacity building programs, our PD sessions, and going into detail of syllabus breakup, going to detail of every kind of topic at the HOD level. And then we formed a concept called line teachers. And line teachers are basically teachers, they are talking about a child. So say, for example, grade 7 line teachers are all the teachers teaching that particular class, and they are talking about the behavioral pattern and the choices made by the child in that particular class, and exactly trying to kind of evaluate the process of that particular child, how he's approaching. Is he approaching only in such a particular way in a particular subject, or is he behaving in that particular manner in all subjects? So that we kind of ensure that the differentiation between say routine pattern of disturbance or someone who's kind of doing X thing in X particular class. And most importantly, giving the trust back to the children. Because this is again an example of, honestly, with all due respect to all the ed company, everything, all this proctor exam, I'm not in favor of, because this brings simply trust deficit. Because if you look at the total number of pictures which you need to look at one child at a particular 3 hours exam, is impossible to kind of monitor that particular child during that particular time. It's impossible. And that's where, rather than this trust deficit, we try to bring the trust thing in the system, where we said, okay, and this has shown impact. The majority, I'm not say 100%, no school can claim, and that's a kind of illusion that everyone has been honest. But there are cases, and majority have chosen the path where they should be doing things the way they should have been done. And I guess teachers also, because they were comparing that kind of stuff. But yes, important thing was the immediate follow-up by the teachers, as and when. The mantra is don't ignore it. You get to know something and you need to immediately respond to that. You can't choose to ignore it, that okay, he has done or she has done, the child is back home. We followed all our kind of punishment reward system as well, that in case we found someone doing something which the child should not have done, exactly same form, because we give it as a yellow card, or we give it a kind of a white card. We have different card system. We ensure that those things also will look there, so that they realize that they are in the school. This feeling of I'm attending school, not physically, but I'm attending school, this understanding also required, because many times kids were not aware that, oh, I can do this. And then gradually they fall in line, and it worked for us in a way. Thank you very much, Ma'am Bali.
Thank you, Dr. Vimal. I really liked what you spoke about. One, the fact that you said rather than resorting to typed assignments, children are very used to, in most international schools, and Rupa would agree, where we have the policy of BYOD, bring your own device, and most international curricula, in any case, encourages students to send in typed, computerized assignments. Of course, at the end of the day, it's a pen and paper test exam. So I would still say, I would go with you when you say that you insisted on written assignments being done, which were in children's own handwriting. I guess that would make the assessment that much more authentic, because you couldn't possibly get somebody else to write the assignment for you. So I really like that method. And we are doing that too, Dr. Vimal, I must tell you. We are doing that all the time. So immediately, as soon as the test is over, the assignment is over, the handwritten assignment, children are allowed, they're given a certain window, let's say 15-20 minutes, in which they're supposed to take a picture and send it across to the teacher. So at the end of the day, the good old method works, and works well. So thank you for speaking about it. And the other thing that you spoke about, the prep, I too have headed a purely residential school and understand so completely. And of course, even now we have boarding and a day. We have a unique model of the boarding and the day boarding and so on and so forth, residential boarders. So we also do preps, of course, and I understand the importance of a prep in a purely residential school and how well it works. That's sacred time, sacrosanct, absolutely, where there is absolutely no other intervention. It's just children and their books and the tutors who are there. So, but I don't know. I mean, you still manage your prep, cyber prep, so to say, an online prep?
Yes, exactly. Online prep. Yes.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing. Uh, Maybe I think I'm also going to experiment with this. Sounds good. The boarders will be at a disadvantage. However, I think I'm going to do that. Sounds really, really interesting. But in your case, guess all your children are boarders. Mine, a certain segment are boarders. And of course, Rupa had spoken about the essential agreements, when you decide that, well, you're not the only stakeholder who's responsible for everything that happens. You're not the only one who's responsible for academic honesty, for children's performance, for accuracy, and excellence. And you so beautifully used the term, carrying everybody's monkeys on your back is not right. I think that's so beautifully said. And maybe high time I think as a head, we need to think about this. Of course, with us, parent engagement is very strong. So as you very rightly said, involving the parents in the process of assessment, asking the parents to be proctors may just work well, may just work well. We have done it time and again. But I'm really not sure. Rupa, of course, was speaking with so much conviction about how one can rely so completely on parents, because I know that most parents will not connive with children to work at good results. But maybe parents as proctors, one could certainly use this method more frequently. We are doing it, but I think we could probably go one step further. Maybe have an essential agreement also with the parents to say, don't help the kids.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So let me go to Ms. Gupta now and ask her. Ms. Gupta, you would be using, I'm sure you would have used one-on-one conferences with the children as a form of assessment. How do you think one-on-one conferences, if you've used them, do you find them effective? And do these one-on-one conferences with children, do they help to raise a red flag about the student progress?
Absolutely, in many ways, especially in this online mode, when we are actually not able to meet the students. This one-to-one conference really helps us to make the social connect, which initially, of course, we could not look for the ways how to get connected with the students. But when we were finding so many gaps in their learning, in not doing their work, so then we decided to move to this one-to-one conference, initially identifying with those who were really facing a problem. First, very important thing is that it creates a rapport, a connect with the teacher, which is very, very important. And making them more comfortable, they open up. Initially, of course, there will be that kind of a resistance, but slowly when they open up, a teacher is able to connect and able to identify what are the concerned areas, what are the gaps. And of course, these one-to-one conferences, whenever we are trying, it has to be goal specific. It has to be very, very goal oriented. What is the purpose of having this one-to-one conference? It should not create that kind of a fear or stress to a child that why a teacher wants to meet me. So first, that giving them confidence, that trust, the purpose of having this one-to-one conference. And when we are doing one-to-one conference, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of misconceptions which are there, that okay, these are the areas which they have not understood. Teacher also gets to know. Sometimes teacher is not able to know what could be the reason that a particular student is not able to do. So we identify their strengths, we identify their weaknesses or limitations, and accordingly strategize our day-to-day transaction, or maybe we have to in case design a different strategy to do the curriculum or do a particular topic with them, a concept with them. Maybe they need that emotional touch, that care, which will give them confidence to appear for a particular assessment. Because sometimes, just giving a child knows everything, but just the thought of giving that assessment creates a stress and anxiety. So that confidence they gain, and as a result they are able to do it. Is okay if you're not achieving a score. So that kind of confidence gives them, and they are able to then at least initially begin to sit for the assessments or doing any kind of assignments, and slowly gain confidence to do it in of course, a better learning or enhanced learning. Another thing is, it is one-to-one conferences. They are this way. We are very flexible, and that flexibility, it gives a lot of scope for the teacher as well, and the one who are taught to work on those particular areas where we need to work. But of course, it has to be very, very goal oriented and should target the learner's growth.
Thank you, Ms. Gupta. I think you're so right when you say one-on-one conferences. Of course, as I said, when I asked you this question, do they help to raise a red flag about student progress? And you were so right when you said that when you have one-on-one conferences, they definitely are a confidence building exercise and help to improve the rapport. They help to enhance the rapport between a student and a teacher. And when you build this rapport, children, you're very easily able to figure out where the children are lacking, and probably once having won over their confidence, you're able to assist them as well. You're absolutely right. And also, Rupa, if I may come to you, I have two quick questions to ask you. One is, Rupa, are you there? Yeah. Yeah. So, Rupa, there are a lot of online assessment platforms, who claim to provide end-to-end online assessment, so to say, right? What do you think of the efficacy of such platforms? Do you think one should use such platforms, or should one devise one's own assessments?
In our school, particularly, Dr. Nita, we stayed away from such assessments that is proclaimed by various companies. The teachers also need to be stimulated and motivated to be creative and design their own product in such a way that they don't borrow people's work. Then it is plagiarism in a different format, right? So I have made it very clear that no matter what, let's all learn. It's a learning community. And these days we are all learning so many things. Try and be creative in designing your assessments. And if required, you might take some pointers, help, but not to lift the whole page and that become your assessment. Never.
Yeah.
So willfully, we have taken a decision to stay away from end-to-end assessment proclaimed by many.
Yes, I think you're so absolutely right, Rupa, because when people claim that they're able to provide you end-to-end online assessments, which is everything ready on a platter, I really don't know how well it serves the purpose. And as you said, the teachers need to be stimulated, which is so right. I think this is one time in my entire career where I have seen, that everybody wants to learn more. All teachers want to learn more, all want to contribute more. They're perpetually trying to match the pace of the students and trying to fulfill the needs of all children in terms of academic work or assessment or co-scholastic activities and opportunities. In fact, the flip side of this pandemic, I think, has, I would say, this has been a time of great growth for everyone.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at it, this kind of phenomenal growth, and it's such a fast pace, could not have happened in any other circumstance, because people would have probably moved in a more planned, well thought out, staggered manner. because this was like a knee-jerk response to begin with. But then I think it boomeranged into something bigger. And definitely, I think a lot of schools, communities have really, really benefited with the improvisation that has happened, and the learning and creativity that has come to the fore. Because everyone is trying to do more and more, for that matter, even students. And I also find that in fact, when you make your students as a head of an international school, I'm so sure that you believe in student agency, which we also do as an international school. Very often, when we ask the children how would they want the assessments administered, children, in fact, have some great ideas. They have some great ideas to bring to the table, and they're also able to recommend different ways in which they would like their work assessed. Uh, so it's really beautiful. In fact, I must share with you that there are children who have recommended presentations are a common thing, of course, but collaborative presentations. Children have said that they'd like to do collaborative presentations, which could be used as a great form of assessment. Children have also recommended, and we have implemented something called, which we call UEDT, that is Unit End Diagnostic Testing. Now, when I say unit and diagnostic testing, what I'm saying is we are testing them in piecemeal, in small bits, rather than swamping the children with a lot of learning and a lot of work, because see, children have been cloistered in their homes for a very long time, and I think the sheer emotional deprivation that they are grappling with, probably it's time not to burden them with too much academic work. So particularly with the middle school, we have experimented beautifully with UEDT, the unit and diagnostic testing, and it's worked well because I tell my teachers that let's see how much have they assimilated at the end of one unit. How much have they assimilated? Have they assimilated enough? Are they ready to move to the next unit? Let's go slow. So we've asked children, and children have been able to also recommend different ways in which they would like to be assessed. A lot of children have come forward and said that they'd like to have a viva, an interface with the teacher, because, and we have done it time and again. Also, we have done it randomly where we have suspected foul play or malpractice. Wherever we have suspected that children have indulged in a malpractice, we have made sure that we have a viva to understand whether the work that has been submitted is really authentic students work, or is it they have used unfair means, because not everyone, however much you may harp on academic honesty, even as an international school, we know that's the cornerstone of any international curriculum, but however much you may harp on it, we know that children are children at the end of the day, and the temptation is very strong. So when we suspect foul play, then we use viva, and it's children who have recommended that you could have a viva with us to understand if it really is my work or not. So children definitely have also contributed, to how assessments could be made more fair and just. Now, if I may ask one more question to you, how useful do you think are the digital quizzes? Rupa, I'm sure you're using them.
Yes.
Yeah. How useful do you find the digital quizzes?
See, Dr. Neeta, here I like to bring about a different thought, which I wasn't thinking 2 years ago, because 2 years ago, the world was different. We never thought of testing children through quizzing, right? 2 years ago, even when I was teaching the IB syllabus, in those times I was teaching, I did not think that I'm going to test them through quizzes. I only heard that quizzes are an important part of assessment in the US universities, and the teachers grade students on the basis of the quizzing. It quizzed my mind to understand how can you grade a child like this, because we were not used to it. As you rightly said, the pandemic has also brought about reverse benefit. And the reverse, one of the benefit is think creatively, and the critical thinking of our brains give us the stimulation that let's do quizzing in the class, because these quizzes should be act as stimulant, not as the boring Bonvita quiz and trying to test knowledge recall. No, it's very good. Those days, in my days, that was the only thing, but it was testing knowledge recall. Here, in our times and the current times, we have to think creatively to understand, do we only need knowledge recall, or do we need skill testing? Do we need to test their time management skill, because quizzes are all timed, and also they get the real-time answers. Children are excited in the classroom, and we play a lot of Kahoot and Quizlet. We use these gaming tools in the platform. So children are middle school. Let's talk about middle school, because that segment you can experience a lot with the things that you wish to see them do. My teachers and I get a report that it's working fine with these kids. However, digital quizzing is not that you can test a lot of answers when you want them to write. For example, in English, you want to test them the knowledge, the vocabulary, the understanding, and all the higher order thinking skills that we want. How do they break down complex instructions into the analysis of the brain? That time, of course, the quizzes do not play a very important diagnostics to help us that, okay, this child understands this much. So quizzing in itself has brought in a new way of teaching and learning in school. It has also developed a great amount of engagement in the classroom. It has stimulated both the children and the teachers, because each one of them are happy. They get real-time answers, and teachers need not correct their papers and sit down and keep grading them, because it's digital, it's automated. So in a way, I can say, yes, it works, but you cannot completely rely on quizzing. You'll have to have multiple strategies to assess. And when you move up with grade 9, 10, 11, 12, we have to have different other strategies, customize it to our needs and the syllabus content, as you rightly said. And then where are you at this point of time with the syllabus? What do you want to test, the milestone of the child? It all depends on school-specific way of working. I don't think one shoe can fit all, but we are a small number school, and we find that it's interesting, that we find a lot of engagement. And initially they used to not come on camera, but when teachers started using this word, okay, we'll go on Kahoot and we'll play something, they are very happy and they show up their faces on camera and we see 100% attendance.
Yes. In fact, you're so right. This whole thing of being camera shy just doesn't seem to go away. In fact, sometimes I think it takes a lot of persuasion to tell all kids to turn on their cameras.
Yes.
If you have a class of 15 or 20, invariably 5 or 6 will not turn on their cameras. Particularly the girls, maybe, they're very particular about how they look on screen. I can't blame them. Dr. Vimal, coming to you, asking children, Rupa just spoke about higher order thinking skills. So asking students to apply HOTS or higher order thinking skills, do you think that's a great way of, conducting an authentic assessment using HOTS?
Look, before I come to this, I think I just want to add one comment, because we are talking about the cameras and that, but I was tempted to say something. Look, definitely the one such way, because I did a little bit of research on this aspect. One such way is obviously how they look on camera, but there are other many reasons. And one of the very important reason is, I personally feel that, when you are in school, you are wearing school uniform and no one can kind of differentiate the social background, because there's no house, there's no car, there's nothing there. But when you are attending classes from your home, there's a background to that. And I guess more than how they look, they're not very keen to show the world how the background is.
Absolutely.
And they're a little too shy. And especially, this is one of the very important reasons, because I did a research on more than 300 kids on my school here. And I figured out this is one of the reasons that why X child, and that's why when you have one-to-one interaction, child will switch on the camera But as and when, because and you will see those who have a fancy wallpaper in the bedroom, on the drawing room, and there's a very private space and everything, there's no background disturbance, they all switch on. But there are people, and definitely there are other things. There are no laziness, they are no now getting into a habit of not dressing up properly. That's again one of the pitfall of, say, this whole lockdown thing, that no, the way I am, let me attend the attending class with priority. I'm lying on my bed and my kind of laptop is on. Those are another thing. But the social background, because school has entered your bedroom, school has entered your drawing room, and I think that's something we all, as a school heads and teachers, I think we should be mindful of this aspect as well. Now, coming back to the HOTS question, again, look, what happened, certain things, certain words become very in words in different world, fine. And hot is one such word which became very in word in education thing. You ask any school, any PD session, anything, what about hot questions? Fine. And I always tell people, what about cold questions? Huh? Yeah, because different. And why I'm saying because hot and cold depends on in which weather, in which time you are having this. Fine. And this is something we need to understand. Say, think about it. You enjoy hot pakoras and hot tea when it's raining, huh? And also it's a cold winter. But you don't enjoy the same thing when it's a temperature is 40, 45 degrees Celsius. Same exactly applies in life. And that's why I particularly feel that all kinds of questions are equally important, because there are different people. And if you look at the individual learning profile, there are people who are with creative mindset. And I think they would love to have such kind of questions in the classroom, and it allows them to, that's a creativity becomes very integral part of assessment. At the same time, there are kids, they are very interested in kind of, sharing the knowledge base, because they had done certain things, they pick up they are the kind of, they immediately pick up some information and they want to share with you. I guess as a teacher, you should be inclusive in that way. Otherwise, what happens, there's a high probability that you will be catering to a certain segment of students in your classroom, and you will be leaving a majority of students in your classroom if you focus only one kind of questions as far as assessment is concerned. And your assessment must have something for everyone, like someone who, if I may say that, someone, who doesn't see any hope in himself or herself. At least there should be something in that question paper for those kind of students as well. So I think inclusive question paper is important. But yes, and it is contextual, in which context, what is your overall, what you want to achieve out of that particular test. That's again a very important thing. That is just a kind of say formative assessment, immediately you are doing it. Or you want that, if you have taught a subject which is conceptual and you want to see that what is the learning outcome of that particular concept, then obviously you go for hot. But there should be enough scope for other form of questions as well.
Thank you, Dr. Wimble. So very rightly said that assessment should ideally be inclusive in nature. You're so right. Well, but what I probably wanted to say is that when you're using HOTS, definitely I think somewhere you're able to understand the depth of a student's learning. So perhaps in that sense, probably HOTS would be a little more authentic in terms of assessment. But you're absolutely right. One size fits all is not what works. So assessment should be inclusive in nature. Now I'd like to ask Ms. Gupta a quick question on there are basically four major types of assessment that we generally speak of. We speak of written assessments, performance tasks, senior projects, and portfolios. So Madhur, I'd like to ask you a little about, have you experimented with senior projects and portfolios? If you have, how useful have you found them?
We have introduced portfolios to begin with in the middle school grade initially, because it is very easy, whatever change you wish to bring out. Middle school is somewhere where you can really, they respond so well, and it is real great pleasure to see them when they are creating their portfolios, and they come out with, though we give them a template, but they come out with much more creativity and much more ideas which can be incorporated in the format and all. Yes, portfolios does help. First of all, it gives them that sense of achievement, when they are making their own portfolios, and they really want to, they feel so that good feeling of it, that whatever I have done, I am adding it into my portfolio. Whatever my thoughts are, which I'm adding it into my portfolio in terms of what I aspire to be, what are my goals, what are my aims, what are my ambitions. Then also talking about where are my limitations and how to look into those limitations. Now when they are talking, when they are working on their portfolios, they are also, you know, putting up their whatever their achievements are, or even a simple participation. Sometimes they participate within the school activities or inter school activities, and when we ask them, do write, we just write on why you were not able to do this well, or why you could achieve this, you know, that introspection. It gives them guidance, or it gives them direction. You know, if suppose I could not achieve this, this is where I need to work. And there comes the teacher's input, where a teacher is able to facilitate and guide in further grooming the students in that particular direction. We are also able to identify sometimes, you know, the hidden strength of students. We are able to identify when we go through their portfolios. We don't know a particular student is able to write so beautifully when they're writing a poem and putting it in their portfolios. So yes, we have introduced it in the middle school, and we encourage them to put whatever they are doing it, write the reflection. Even it's very interesting class activities also, if you're doing it, kind of a participation in assemblies or any kind of student-led activity. So it gives them a sense of satisfaction and achievement. Yes, coming to grade higher classes, grade 11 and 12, it becomes a little challenge. Maybe there comes a little rigidity in terms of finishing the syllabus. That pressure is there, or the examination pressure is there. So of course, it's not in the grade 11 and 12. Yes, 9 and 10, we have taken it forward to grade 9, and now we will be taking it to grade 10 also.
Yeah, absolutely, Madhur. I so very much agree with you. Portfolios, I think, are a very interesting way of assessing students' performance. And also what you said about reflection, in fact. And I really think that assessment and reflection, although not many schools encourage reflection, but I think reflection is equally important. After an assessment, it's very important for children and for students, for pupils and teachers to reflect on how children have performed. Children should be able to reflect on how they have performed and why they have performed the way they have. And of course, collectively with the children, the teacher should be able to reflect. Is there a flaw somewhere or gap in the teaching learning process? Reflection is really important, and I think that is one major advantage that most international curricula have, if I may say so,
Yes.
over the national curriculum, that they
Right.
encourage reflection.
And I think it gives direction to teacher also, you know, where we are
Absolutely,
going
absolutely,
right, or where we are going wrong, and we can again
absolutely.
redesign our teaching strategies based on
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes. So, at the end of the day, I think a lot of us are using a lot of fabulous digital tools. Um, Rupa has spoken about Kahoot and how interestingly it's being used. I think right across, particularly with younger children, the other very interesting tools like Animoto, where I find that the younger children, particularly, and teachers are using it so beautifully to make videos. There's something called Crowd Signal, which is being used also for online polls, for creating quizzes, Edpuzzle, Google Forms, and a fantastic tool which is being used to generate a feedback called Kaizen, and many others, and also Socrative that we're using to create quizzes and questions in real time. But having said that, um, definitely there is a lot of scope for more improvisation, more enrichment, and definitely to make assessment. Assessment should be a means to an end. Frankly, I think assessment should be a means to an end, not an end by itself. And high time we move beyond grades. So let us not make assessments the be all and end all of teaching learning. Let us make assessments a means to an end, a source, a resource which we can use to enhance teaching learning, probably a byproduct of good teaching learning and not the ultimate. With this, I'd like to close and over to Rahul. I can see that he's here, and I think we are almost dot on time with our 60-minute discussion. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was such a wonderful deliberation, quite an insightful one. And I'd like to thank all the eminent speakers for taking some time out of their busy schedule to be here with us on this wonderful forum. It was such a delight hosting you all, and I really hope you two all had a wonderful time as well.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the panelists, Dr. Vimal, Rupa, Madhur. It was such a delight to listen to all of you. Thank you so much. It was great learning for me too.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you so much. Now, finally, I'd like to thank our wonderful audience. This is the third day and last day of the event, and this wouldn't have been possible without their support, obviously. There's a feedback link in the chat box. Please do fill it up to get the certificates. And please do follow our social media handles to get all the updates on upcoming events. Thank you so much once again for joining us. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Thank you.